we have a dude exposed for the most prolific amount of art theft in convention sales that I've seen. And he was even a featured guest in some conventions. This is wild, let's strap in. So this is a massive thread posted on Twitter by Revenant, who goes by the Twitter handle Revenant Art. Revenant writes, please help me spread this to bring awareness to an art thief and scammer who is selling traced artwork at conventions. An attendee reported to me that my art was spotted and being sold as prints at a convention. On the left is my version, on the right is theirs. So as we can see here, this is Revenant's artwork. So cute! I really love the dynamic posing here. And then here we have the artwork posted by Instagram user official Tora. And then Revenant writes, here you can see them stacked on top of each other with lowered opacity. I'd certainly say it's beyond just inspired and more in the realm of traced. The thief in question is official Tora on Instagram, also known as Christopher Roku Coates or Roku Star. So here is the piece. And okay, again, I will say this is not a one-to-one tracing. We'll look at other examples though, but it is pretty damn close. It is really similar. And a lot of times when it comes to situations like this, where it's not like a one-to-one direct tracing, some people will defend the thief, being like, well, it's not exactly tracing. No, 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 no. Do we have eyes? And this is a screenshot of his Instagram page, where again, you can see that artwork is right there. Revenant continues, you can see in these images that he is actively selling his edited versions of my pieces as prints at conventions. Images include him at his table where my work is visible. So here we have a photo of Tora or Chris with somebody else who purchased that exact art piece. Again, here it looks like Chris is in Japan, judging by the yen sign, but here on the table, you can see more artwork where again, this is Revenant's heavily inspired slash completely traced piece, and another art piece as well that we will get into. If you do a side by side, you can see the colors are also basically identical. It basically looks like Toro color selected off of Revenant's piece, and you might be like, well, what if that's just the characters' colors and they were just color selecting the characters' colors? So from my understanding, this is from the Amazing Digital Circus, and as you can see in the coloring of the character in the Amazing Digital Circus, the colors that Revenant chose are slightly modified. They look to be more saturated than the colors that were used in the media piece. Sorry, this is Revenant's piece, right? But it really looks like Tora took the colors too, was like, bloop, I'm gonna take this color, and then used it in his piece. Even the hair color, everything. Moving on, Revenant continues, originally I wanted to solve this amicably and I wrote a message for him to take these down and stop selling them. I was gonna wait 5 days to give him a chance, but the more I dug, the more egregious the situation started becoming and I changed my mind. I found at least 7 pieces, including mine, that were stolen and being claimed as his. There are probably more, but these are the ones that were both found and brought to my attention. And these are the DMs between Revenant and Tora, aka Chris, where Revenant says, hey there, somebody reported to me that you're selling prints at conventions traced from my Amazing Digital Circus fan art of Pomni. I reviewed it and the piece is substantially similar to my copyrighted work. Enough that an attendee recognized it at your table as my art. While you've made some changes, these alterations aren't transformative. To be clear, while the character is from the Amazing Digital Circus, my fan art's pose, composition, and artistic choices are my original work protected by copyright. Tracing without permission and selling prints for profit violates my copyright and art community ethics. This can harm my own brand as well as my ability to make money from my art as well as yours long term. Somebody contacted me about this, which means people aren't completely unaware. I request that you stop selling these prints, remove them from your inventory, and take down any online posts. I'll send comparisons along with proof of my posting date on October 23rd, 2023 for the piece. Please confirm within 5 days or I may need to take steps like reporting to convention organizers or filing a DMCA takedown. I prefer to resolve this amicably. Thank you. Then Revenant shows some side by side. 5. Asia Ladowska's are on the left, Tora's on the right, and both overlaid together. Apparently this was printed as a commission for somebody. So this is Asia's piece, this is Tora's piece. By the way, I also do want to add just how different the art style is, right? Again, I keep saying this over and over again, and sometimes it gets a little annoying. Artists can experiment with art styles. Artists have multiple art styles. That is completely valid. You also see these tracers having extremely different art styles because they're tracing off of different people. But here are the pieces overlaid, and it's like one to one for a lot of aspects. A lot of the face, the facial elements, etc. basically one to one. The head's shape, everything. And then here we have Instagram user Miss Witch. And again, don't send hate to any parties involved, but especially not the commissioners, because these people likely had absolutely no idea this guy was tracing and stealing stuff, right? But Miss Witch says, oh, thanks, Chris, for the amazing commission and beautiful art. Number 6. KO718 Sonokari no longer on social media from what I can find. On the left, Thief is on the right and overlaid together. Can be seen in print here as well. I love that Chris watermarks his work. Please don't steal. So this is KO's work or K0's work. This is Chris's work. Again, I just really want to point out how basically the colors were also stolen as well. Like, bro didn't even want to look for his own colors, just color dropped. And then this is the work overlaid together. A lot of the aspects are really similar. The legs are basically one to one, and a little small element of the body was changed, but it's relatively identical as well. Here's another screen grab of one of his convention table layouts where you can see that art piece is over here. Another one, Mommy Mog's work on the left, Thief on the right, and overlaid together. This was also apparently printed as a commission. So this is Mommy's work, where you can see the Mog watermark is on the piece. Chris just changed the watermark on the face to Holly, but this is essentially heavily referenced. And here it is overlaid. Like, a fair amount of elements are traced. There's only extremely minor changes with like the hair, but literally the eyes, everything traced. And again, do I want to point out again, the color values are extremely similar. And then again, this was a commission for Miss Witch as well, who again likely had absolutely no idea. Tokadara Posita on ArtStation and Instagram's work on the left. Print from the Thief can be seen here. And again, I do want to add as well, a huge dub to Revenant. This is an extremely thorough and well-investigated thread. Tokada Raposita and the original art piece. And then this is the trace piece. And more was added, you know, there's like a lower body, but the whole upper body, the upper bust is traced. And somebody purchasing the piece. Again, the person who bought it, very certain they had no idea. Another one, Riel on ArtStation's work. The one legitimately looks like the guy just straight up stole it and started selling it. Here is Riel's piece, and this looks identical. Like, no changes were made. Here we go, Lady G Valentine on the left, and the Thief's edited version can also be seen in print behind him in the picture. So, Lady Valentine's piece. Here, Chris edits it a little bit with like a Lisa Frank-inspired background and a key on the front. And then here in the picture behind him, that piece is visible. Revenant continues, what's interesting is that after I confronted him about this, suddenly he deleted his most recent video on his Insta, which was there for days previously and just happened to be where a lot of recent footage of his booth was. I doubt he'll delete the actual pictures like I asked. That would be an admission of guilt. And this is his Instagram page. Again, we can see the stolen artwork, right? A whole bunch of them right here. 12. He also started editing his pictures to say commission on them, which they didn't say until hours ago. You can even see in the older screenshots above that they don't. And you can see in these below how recently this snake edited the post. Interesting how many he just happened to edit to say this on the day he got called out. Like it's gonna be some kind of good excuse. Quote, nah bro, the commissioner just wanted me to trace the original art. What could I have done? End quote. Here, no exit commission. You're invited, commission. Possessed, commission. Throwing in another 2 cents here, there is an argument and debate where people are like, oh, but like if it's a commission and the commissioner asks you to trace the artwork, then it's okay. I argue, and let me know your opinion in the comments below. I argue that's still not okay, because if somebody comes to you with artwork and says, can you trace this one for one? And you do it, I would argue you don't have very much ethics to yourself. But on a whole separate point, some of these posts that he labeled as commission, he literally sold at conventions. And while some artists do this where like they have it in their TOS where even it's a commission work, if it is like sellable IP, then they do have the right to sell it. That's a whole separate conversation, but he literally still sold it for profit. This piece where you see it says commission, again, thanks to the wonderful proof Revenant provided, you can literally see the artwork being sold on his convention booth, right? Another example of the stolen piece. So the commission argument, which is just him trying to scapegoat blame onto the person who bought the artwork, right? Doesn't even stand because you're trying to profit. Like, profit more. Weirdly, the ones that apparently were commissions don't say it and weren't edited to say it, which is this piece and this piece, which remember that other Instagram user had posted about it being a commission. He also seems to claim he worked on Has Been Hotel, Amazing Digital Circus, My Hero, etc. Enough so that somebody on Reddit thought he was an artist from the Has Been show itself. I don't know if he's actively telling people he is, or if he's just telling half-truths. Like, as if I started telling people, quote, yeah, I worked on Shantae, end quote, when in reality, I just meant as fan art, and can fall back on that if called out. I can't find anything about him working on it, so I may be wrong. I'd be absolutely astounded if an artist of the level to work productions that mainstream was just blatantly tracing art and reselling it, violating copyright laws. I'm past giving him the benefit of doubt at this point, though. And this is the page from Atlantic Comic Con with his name, Chris Coates, where it, writes Has Been Hotel, hell of a boss. Christopher is an officially commissioned artist and currently main work on Has Been Hotel. Others' work include Hell of a Boss, Amazing Digital Circus, My Hero Academia, DC's Batgirl and Red Sonja, and more. I would say that this is extremely misleading if he did not work on any of these titles because it would lead people to think that he did, and a lot of people who are big fans of these titles want pieces from artists that's actually worked on it, right? My brother is a big Hazbin Hotel fan for one. So, you're like scamming people because essentially you're getting sales that you wouldn't have gotten. And here's somebody posting in Hasbin Hotel writing, I went to a comic book convention and met an artist from the show and bought some art from him. Buru Toro on Insta, which is Chris. He's announced that he's going to be at El Paso Comic Con, so if you have any kind of opinion to share with the event organizers about art thieves, like Chris blatantly selling not just copied but traced work and potentially damaging the reputation of their con, be sure to let them know. This is his post about it. I'd ask not to harass the guy even if he's a slimy piece of shit, but I'm guessing a lot of his work is traced, so if you go to his Instagram and see anything in his portfolio that you recognize, please let the actual artist of the piece know. Thank you for the time. So then Koji Taro writes, my art was stolen too, right and left hands. So this is Koji's work, again, also of the Amazing Digital Circus. But look at the hands and then look at Chris's work. And Revenant says, this seriously blows my mind. I had assumed he just made the hands himself. The guy seriously mashed our two pieces together to make his stolen art. Here's what some commenters had to add. Raven the Lemon says, sad I actually met this guy at a con and have one of his stolen artworks as a poster. Can't use it anymore now that I know it's stolen. And Revenant says, sorry to hear that. You really couldn't have known. And Hyveria adds, tracing art and posting online is already disgusting, but to have the audacity to also sell it is just criminal. Revenant says, yeah, it's legitimately criminal. He's essentially going to these events and cosplaying as an artist, scamming people for money. Devin writes, gosh, he does have a talent, but why is he stealing art from other artists? Like, just create your own original idea. And Revenant says, yeah, that's the sad thing. He can draw. He's just taking the laziest route. And then another user by the name of Alia Link adds, here's art I bought from him at Phoenix Fan Fusion in case any of this art is stolen. I'll post single photos of the posters below as well. Here's a shirt we bought as well in case this art is also stolen. And then Alia adds a photo of a piece, writing, I am searching high and low to find the possible artist for this one because he marked them as only 50 sold. As you can see, 3 out of 50, but I see there were many more. He also told us we should go get Brandon Rogers to sign it since he was at the same con. And Revenant adds, yeah, this one's like the holy grail of his work for trying to find the original. My best guess is it's from an art of a maid that he put Blitzo's face on. And Ayla adds, the Japanese translates to, quote, magical girl Blitzo, end quote, if that helps anyone find it. And then Alia adds this piece and then writes, dug a little, found this. Looks like this drawing of loot that I commissioned from him. And here you can see this is a piece of loot posted on Pinterest, and this is most definitely AI art, by the way. Look at like the bajillion fingers. And Revenant adds, good find. This is AI art he probably found on Pinterest and traced over. I'm sorry this happened to you. It's seriously bullshit how much scamming he was able to do. Conventions need to do a better job vetting their, quote, guest artists, end quote. Ayla says, honestly, we drank with the guy after con too and made friends with him. To think of all the lies he told us just boils my blood. And Revenant says, he seems like a charismatic guy who can lie without any issues at all. Most people are expecting others to be scumbag liars, so don't beat yourself up over it. And Carly Marley says, wow, I saw him just last week at the con he was at WonderCon Anaheim. He told us he was a glitch artist and worked for Glitch. I was amazed and he had an art album on his table. I flipped through them and saw the same ones you posted. However, I remember something off about a question. I asked him what does he work on at Glitch? He said marketing designs, like posters for Glitch. I said, what else did you work on? He said, and then said I work mostly with the marketing team with sketches. My brother wanted to commission from him, but didn't at the time. I told him this right away. However, he had a bubble pin and I bought it and he signed it. I feel hurt that if these accusations are true. Bro, this guy apparently just works for every single big company and title ever. And then Revenant compiled more artists that Chris has stolen from. So number 17, Koji Taru, which again was the piece where they took Koji's hands and then mashed it with Revenant's body and then Chris made his piece with it, right? Then 18, mysteriously he deleted the K0 Palmy picture from his Insta, then immediately after either deactivated or deleted his account. So here, this is the Palmy picture, right, from KO, and then it's gone, and now his account is gone. Revenant continues, I certainly wouldn't consider the situation over. Just because he has no social media doesn't mean he isn't showing up to cons and selling people stolen art. I don't know what he'll be able to do other than change his name or rely on his own artistic skills. El Paso Comic Con canceled his guest appearance. Please be sure to inform your own local conventions of his activities. He likes to travel. Link them to this thread so they can see how blatant his actions are so that he can't scam any more con attendees ever again. More evidence of him posing with his stolen artwork. As you can see here, 2 stolen pieces. and they were all in the thread as well. And then this is the one from Ayla Link. The Butcher X's Art of Verosica. Chris just cropped the watermark out of this one. You can see here, their watermark is on the bottom, and then the watermark is just cropped out, photoshopped out or something. This is like one-to-one. Another one, art commissioned by Javi Tink Fizz on Fur Affinity from Burmasin. This is the piece. 7 years ago, art commissioned from Bero, BER00. I'm guessing this is their old username, right? Look at the face. That's like the same thing. Another one, this piece is originally by DG Zombie, no longer on social media from what I can find. Another piece that was straight up stolen and peddled as his own. Another art piece, and this is the exact same piece. Again, like, just look how different the art styles are. And again, me saying this, I'm not trying to shame you if you fell for him, the scams, etc., right? I feel like most people who purchase from artists assume that the artist is genuine. We're not out here being like, oh, are you a scammer? You know, maybe they just like to draw in different art styles. And then you find out, guys, actually scamming. All right, but then this rabbit hole goes a little bit deeper. So we have some internet sleuths. So this is Hellbringer on Twitter writing, did some background investigating because my friends is all about this tea. He was mentioned to help with Activision on Guitar Hero, and I think this man also stole somebody's identity. Left is Chris Coates from Activision circa 2000, and right is the thief circa 2017. So this allegedly is the Chris that worked on Activision, and this is our thief Chris in 2017. Our thief is noticeably younger, and our thief also has a face tattoo. So Revenant says, if this is true, this is legitimately insane. And Hellbringer says, here's source of where and when it was stated he worked there. And Phoenix Fan Fusion on their Facebook page writes, at a young age, Christopher Roku Coates funded each project himself through odd jobs, selling candy to his friends, and eventually selling small pieces of artwork at local skateboard shops. Chris developed a keen eye for design and trends, landing his first job at DesignWorks. He then began working with Activision in the late 2000s, working on major titles such as Guitar Hero and Spider-Man. From there, he spent the next decade sharpening his skill as a freelance artist in the comic book convention industry. Come see Christopher Roku Coates and his work at Phoenix Fan Fusion. And Revenant says, I definitely need to see a lot more evidence before coming to any solid conclusions on this. Guitar Hero Live is the only version of the game I can find with a Chris Coates in the credits, and it clearly wasn't the art thief Chris Coates. It's possible they share the same name and he took advantage of it, thinking nobody would look any deeper. Game dev Chris Coates never worked on a Spider-Man game from what I can see though. And Hellbringer says, that is true and same results from my end. Even tried Roku Star and other versions of his alias and names, nothing. But even if it was only a shared name, if he claimed he worked those games and didn't actually, pretty sure that's still a form of identity theft. I don't know, I'm bad at law. And Ayla adds, even states in here that he worked there. Also, hi, I'm the friend who wanted the tea. So here is another little blurb about Christopher, where it reads, over the years, Chris grew as an artist. He entered local contests and showcases, developing a keen eye for design and trends. He then began working with Activision in the late 2000s, working on major titles such as Guitar Hero and Spider-Man. I did a bunch of digging and I personally did not find anything about Chris working at like Activision or anything like that. Again, a lot of his stuff on the internet has been wiped. His Instagram page is now gone. Although he does have like a second Instagram page that is completely dead under his Roku Star alias, where he was like selling, you know, beanies and like arm warmers that he made and promoting his Patreon and the sketches there, you know, doing sketches like these. And I found the blog post from 2020 basically promoting his commission services. My cat is off screen. You guys can't see him, but he's right here. But that definitely seems to be the end of it. I will have all of the artists that Chris stole from linked down below. This is some egregious behavior. Oh, you can see his tail. Doo-doo-doo-doo. He stole from so many people and was selling at conventions. I personally, my tinfoil hat conspiracy theory is that he likely either did not work at the companies that he claimed to work at, or is greatly kind of overplaying the role that he had, you know? Maybe he was an intern or something, but making it seem like he was a lot more. YouTube wants to see you. Come here. I think he's like trying to eat something he shouldn't be eating.
Hi, baby boy. Oh, who's a big kitty?
But please show love and condolences to all of the artists and Revenant, who is also an artist that Chris stole from, but also for compiling the massive thread. We love that. Hey, look at my baby boy. And scammers like him, they will be back. We have art tracing in the My Hero Academia fandom, guys. This was the call-out posted on Twitter on April 21st, posted by Egos Golden 34. Egos writes, hello, to those that read this, we are not happy with making this, nor did we want to make this. But after seeing what GSony24 has been doing, we felt it wouldn't be right to stay quiet. GSony24 has traced multiple pieces, most being the ones she sells as prints. proof and thread. So Egos continues, before we get into it, we want to add some disclaimers. We contacted her before creating this post, and she did reply. However, she made no claims that she would let her supporters know about the issue, and since the private message, she has been taking down artworks. Tracing can help artists with their anatomy, and it's okay when permission is given from the artist. She has also traced real-life photos, which is fine. However, it becomes extremely problematic when these artworks are posted online solely as G Sony's creations and are also being sold. These are the DMs between what looks to be Egos and Sunny. So we can see like Sunny, Sony up on the top. Egos sends over the graphic, and we'll see the graphic in a second, kind of showing the side-by-side between Sony's works and other works that it looks like Sony has traced. So Egos writes, "Hello G Sony, this is to address multiple of your previous My Hero Academia artworks. Not just me, but multiple people online have noticed your constant tracing of other artists' works, and the most frequently used artist, Reno Tuna. Tracing can help artists develop their anatomy skills in many ways. You also trace real-life photos, which is fine. However, when it comes to tracing other artists' work and passing it off as completely your own publicly, it's highly unacceptable. Not only that, but you have and are planning to make more money off of their hard work with the selling of your prints at multiple anime conventions. This is not right at all. Please address it with your fanbase immediately. Here's 1 to 3 examples in an image so you see what I mean. You're clearly a great artist, but not truthful with your followers. I'm coming to you so that somebody else does not publicly come out with this in a mean way. I've seen it happen too many times, and quite frankly, you have used other artists' works way too much, and that's bound to come out soon." And Sony responds, "Firstly, this was genuinely such a wake-up call and a very nice and straightforward response. Sometimes when I struggle to draw, I do look up poses on Pinterest and go off what I see and reference pieces. But you're right, I am being very disrespectful towards the other artists and not crediting where it's due, and that is unacceptable, especially when I am selling stuff at that. Thank you for speaking up and messaging me. You were very polite and patient in explaining something that is clearly frustrating, and I'm grateful for that. It is really late for me when I'm seeing this, so sorry if the grammar is bad or doesn't make sense. I didn't want to leave you hanging. I'll message you again when I wake up and give a more thorough response. I really appreciate you speaking up about this and telling me directly, man. I genuinely do need to reflect and do better." Sony's response seems very mature, seems very well put together and well spoken. So I respect the way they responded, right? They weren't defensive. They immediately owned up and they recognized, yeah, it was wrong, da 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 da. I'll respond later. So Egos responds, "I'm glad you understand where I'm coming from. Please from here stop with the tracing. From looking at your rendering and coloring, it's clear you have the skill when it comes to digital art, which is why I'm quite confused as to why you've used other people's artworks in this way. I understand it's quite late for you in your time zone. You can reply when it's morning." And then Egos writes, "I never received a response. She just began to delete artworks from her Instagram and Twitter. She seems to recognize how wrongful her actions were, yet she has not indicated any intention to inform her supporters about this or halt the sale of her artworks." So here are some pieces that were deleted. These were the pieces that were accused of being traced, and we'll see it in the next graphic. And then in this photo that is attached, Egos is basically showing Sony's Instagram page where you can see Sony is selling a lot of these artworks at conventions. These are almost all of these photos are from different conventions, right? Just look at the booth setup, different convention, different convention, different convention. So you can see that Sony is profiting off of this. And there is always a debate when it comes to art tracing because people are like, it's just tracing to learn, da 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 da. I feel like a lot of artists do share my same sentiment where if you trace to learn, that's chill. Don't post it. The public should never see it. You should never claim it's yours. And most definitely, you should not sell it. That is like the worst of the worst. By selling works at a convention that are traced, really bad. But there is a debate as to whether the works are traced at all or whether the works are heavily referenced. And that is something that commenters will debate. Egos adds, "Image proof above of the many of Sony's artworks we found to be traced from artists online. Her supporters across all platforms where the artwork has been shared, including Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter, must be informed." You're entitled to sell your artworks, just don't sell the traced stuff. You know, in the past, historically, even amongst painters back in the day, they would replicate paintings to study. It is a known technique to learn. You just don't claim that you drew the Mona Lisa, you know? That's where we start drawing the line. And then Egos continues, "I urge that tracing and sale of her plagiarized works are stopped immediately. This is the only pieces we found hard proof of tracing. There are other pieces she has traced. G Sony 24 has entered and won an art contest with one of her pieces, but it is unclear if it's traced. Judging with her history of tracing, it's not something we can rule out. When an artist is caught tracing multiple times, a trust is broken and credibility is lost. It is now not clear if one of her pieces aren't traced." And then Egos attaches the side-by-side photos. Here we have a side-by-side, so this is Sony's artwork of Todoroki. The last time I watched My Hero Academia was like 2 years ago. And then we have this art piece, and you see they're stretching the arm. And there are some differences, right? Like Todoroki's head is a little bit different, it's just a little bit in terms of the head position. OG art by Reno Tuna. Reno is like the one that Sony traces almost all of their artwork from. That's what it looks to be anyways. But look at the way the arms overlap. And I want you to look at the shading of the muscles in the forearm. Look at the shading. How come the shading even overlaps 1-to-1? Like the rendering is identical. Now look at the side by side. This one is a little bit more of a stretch, but the body shape here, everything, the shoulder. So this side is a little bit harder to tell because Bakugo has the piece around his neck that kind of obstructs some stuff. The shoulder shape, all of that is the same. Oh my god, yeah, the clothing wrinkles as well, 1-to-1. Like it's as if Sony is stealing the rendering too. Like not even the body pose, whatever, but the rendering too. And then we have Uraka. Sorry, I'm so bad at pronouncing the names. Uraraka, another art piece by Rito. And then look at the middle, the shoulders. Just look at the shape of the shoulders, the shape of the arms, etc. All of that 1-to-1. There were a lot of people in the comment section that were like, this is just referencing. Do I need to explain to you that if your artwork lines up 1-to-1 with another person's artwork, you traced it? If you took somebody's artwork and you drew over it and then you claimed it as your own, you traced it. Doesn't matter if you traced only a part of it. Like with the Bakugo one, it was mainly the torso and the shoulder. The Todoroki one, the majority of the portion that was traced for that one was the arms, right? The arm stretching. I'm here to tell you, if you trace a part of it, you still traced, okay? That's like the equivalent of me saying, if I go to a jewelry store and they're selling earrings that's hanging there, out of a set of earrings, right? So there's 2, 1 for each ear. If I only take 1 and walk away without paying, I still stole. I didn't steal the entire set, but I still stole, okay? And I think there was a commenter in the comment section that had great example of this. Here we have, it's Emily writing, to the people who still don't get it, here's what an actual reference looks like. None line up 1-to-1. So here, right, this is the thread. This is an art piece by An Eclipse at Dusk. They're kind of like, basically, it's like 2 people cuddling. The reference, right? 2 people cuddling. Oh, yeah, it's not, overlapping. Like a lot of differences here. You see what I mean by reference? You don't trace it. Even the text bubbles don't line up is what I wanted to indicate, right? Now, the second thing is a lot of people were saying in the comment section, oh, it's just a pose. Nobody owns a pose. Yeah, you don't own the pose, but you own the art of the pose. Like the pose of somebody flexing. Duh, nobody owns the pose of somebody flexing. But if you drew a character flexing, you own the drawing of that. That logic isn't flying here. Same thing, the color palettes, right? Yeah, nobody owns a color palette, but if you go to somebody's artwork and color select every single fucking color off their artwork and use it in your piece, come on, bro, can we please be a little bit more original? My theory as to why so many people are defending this artist, which we often don't see in cases of art tracing with a lot of substantial proof like this, and when the artist kind of admits it, they said referencing, but they admitted they did something wrong, is because it's a fandom that is near and dear to your heart and you enjoy consuming the artwork. So therefore, you don't want to acknowledge that the artist did something wrong because then ethically you shouldn't consume the work anymore. So that's my theory as to why in this case specifically, there are so many people defending the artist, which I rarely ever see. But we have more threads with some more clarification that I really appreciate. This is posted by glitter_ on Twitter, who goes by glitter, writing, I think a bigger issue than the tracing here is that painted parts have been lifted from the original artist's artwork. For example, on Shoto's arm, you can see the shading is the exact same, except it's been overlaid with a lighter tone. There's more examples too. So here you can see the side by side. That was the thing I was pointing out earlier. Look at the rendering. Look at the rendering of the arm. Look at the curvature of this brushstroke to make out the shape of the elbow. How come that is like the exact same? Either they're like directly painting over or they literally cut and paste. Look at the shape of the fingers too. The rendering of the fingers. Why is it so similar? Even the rendering of the knuckles. The way that Reno rendered the knuckles, it's like they're kind of like squares, kind of like little squares. How come that is also replicated in Shoto's hand? So glitter continues, on the shirt you can still see these small details with the shading from the original artist's work. For example, these little lines they drew. The fingers are also completely lifted with a lighter tone on top. Next is Bakugo's shirt in another piece. So this is the original work. Take a look at the wrinkles in the shirt, and there's some hatch marks that this artist draws with. So look at the hatch marks. Also, you can find the hatch marks on the arm as well. And here, look at the wrinkles in the shirt where that hatching is also present in Sony's work. And then onto Bakugo's shirt, Glitter adds, I've circled some examples here of what the shirt has been lifted and not edited. There's probably more, but this was just a quick look of the piece. I'm not sure if there's more of this sort of thing on other pieces of art because I haven't checked, but I wouldn't be surprised. They're literally coloring over the artwork. Look at that. Look at the wrinkles at the armpit here. The same. Look at the diagonal wrinkles across the body. It literally looks like they took the piece and painted over it. This is like beyond tracing. Glitter continues, just a reminder, it's not cool to steal from other artists. I know people are saying it's just a pose and anyone can do it, but tracing it line for line from another artist is just not cool. There's plenty of 3D models that could help with poses if you need an alternative. Just want to make something clear because I've seen quote retweets that are saying this is more evidence of tracing. This is actually straight up stealing the work. Never mind tracing, they took the art and added a layer over it on Photoshop and altered the tones. They didn't recreate the shading, little lines, stuff like that. They took the previous work and overlaid it with their own colors. So this is literally art theft, not tracing. Yeah, this is like crazy art theft, honestly. Painting over somebody else's work. So here we have a commenter writing, God damn, she's been a popular artist in the My Hero Academia fandom for years. It's disappointing to see this because she can obviously draw and draw very well. I don't understand why she'd choose to trace and steal like that. Glitter continues, I think she was cutting corners to save time and got lazy. Sometimes it's as simple as that. It's such a shame because they've got great skill. If they had more time and effort, they could have created these pieces without any stealing. So here we have another post. I'm gonna call them Peach because that's the emoji in their username, or like in their nickname, but I don't know how to read their username. It's Bitchy Pig. I'm sorry. Peach writes, I don't know why people are denying this. And here, beautiful, right? Peach basically drew over the reference and then like overlapped it with the piece that Sony made. So you can literally see how overlaid it is. Look at this reference, right? And then look at Bakugo. Why is it like 1-to-1? Excuse me. Even the shading of the pecs are the same. Again, nobody owns this like low angle upshot pose. Draw it yourself, bro. Don't trace over the work. Look at the side by side. Oh, and this one again, the Shoto arm one. The only thing is the shoulder is a little cropped off in the actual image. It could have extended more, honestly. It's just cropped a little bit. Why is it 1-to-1? Then we have this big old thread posted by Twitter user Fezzo65337, who goes by Ho. What is that? What is that? He even cut up Horikoshi's art and pasted it together to make it look like their own. Like, be serious. So yeah, this is Sony. This is also Sony's work, and this is Hori's work, as you can see written here for some clarification. But the copy and pasting of somebody's rendering, wild. To do that and then sell it for profit is crazy. Ho has more side-by-sides for us. Look at this one. This is from Hori, okay? These are some panels. And then look at Sony's. Look at all of the elements that are traced. Ho is, by the way, putting in the God's work for this. Look at this background. It's literally cut from this background in Hori's work. Like, the clothing shading is just cut and pasted from Hori's work. Just blended together. This is so bad. And this one is the worst one. And this one reads, there should be more to this picture, but I'm too lazy to find it. Jigsaw Master. And if I understand correctly, the context to this is this background piece is Sony's piece that Sony entered into an art contest. But take a look at this. Look at the hair. Look at the hair for both of them. So this piece, she won the worldwide contest picked by Horikoshi himself when she cut and pasted his work. Her submission? Jail. So here, this piece, Ho writes, I don't even know which parts were drawn by her. I almost died of laughter when I put the jigsaw puzzle together. Oh my god. Look at Bakugo. Just cut and pasted from Reno's work and Hori's work. That's crazy. So Hori quote retweeted some people's posts. Ku or Kuspikery writes, I found this while scrolling through Pinterest. Couldn't find the original artist, so please comment if you found them. But here we have Sony's work, the Pinterest pieces. Dude, this is literally the same with like an overlay on it. That's like the only difference. Ku writes, it generally looks like she just morphed the original drawings and drew Deku on top. And if you take a closer look, the rendering is chopped up into pieces in some areas and pasted onto her art. Yeah, it looks like it's just this, but mirrored. Like it was flipped and then used here. Even like the shading, the seam in the back of the shirt, and then the crisscross here, like the bend here. And the pants is 1-to-1. I think like zero modifications happened to the pants, honestly. Look at this. Ku adds another one. It's too funny. The OG artist is Shendoshi9. I'll link the original post below. Here we have the side by side. Remember this piece, we already saw this one in what Ho showed. The whole piece is cut and pasted, but even the pose was traced off of another work. And then this is Shendoshi's actual piece. And Ku adds, also disclaimer, I definitely don't think people should march over and send hate to her. That really isn't mature. But considering Sony is a grown adult like the rest of us, I think accountability needs to take place. As an artist myself, it's very disheartening to see this. I do agree too. Again, the whole point is not send hate to Sony, you know? It's just awareness because dude, what the F? So here we have this post that Ka put together, the side by side, another piece of Bakugo versus reference piece. And you can see, look at the shading on the back. This original piece has this like V cut in the scapula, and that same shading is present in the back. It's literally paintovers of somebody else's work. Like, this is worse than tracing, because this is literally theft. They just take people's pieces and then like cut and paste them together. And then we have another post by Twitter user Donut11, but you can see just the cut and paste that's going on again. It's this hair that's pasted onto the head. You know, look at this too, right? This hair was directly cut and pasted here, cut and pasted, and then it looks like they mirrored it and then used it for this head because the head is turned the other way. Like, how come everything lines up 1-to-1? Twitter user KT0HRK adds some extra context about the cherry blossom piece, and they write, the artist who is currently causing a stir in the overseas My Hero Academia community with his traced illustrations is the same artist who won a prize in the My Hero Academia World Fan Art Contest. Moreover, it looks like the illustration was cut and copied from Horikoshi Sensei's illustration. It's amazing it was chosen though. The Taiwanese artist I found is amazing, likely referring to Ho. Here we whoa, what was that? Jesus. Twitter user Karen Ju or Lay adds, quote, they've posted time lapses before, end quote. I think you guys forget that Sony uses Procreate, and there's a feature on there that allows users to add hidden images. And this is the demonstration of the hidden images in case you guys didn't know how to do that. So the thing is, okay, Procreate is not a smoking gun. Just because somebody uses Procreate doesn't mean that they are tracing. But we do know that because Procreate has this hidden image feature, right? It's dangerous, in which you can't really trust the time lapse if they post a time lapse as proof if Procreate is the program they draw in. Because you see the time lapse right there. We didn't see the reference photo that Lay added in. Not only traced, literally took people's artwork and painted directly over the art piece and claimed it as their own. And they're really popular in the My Hero community. Yeah, and like everyone's defending them, by the way. I always wanted to clarify, like, just because you use Procreate doesn't mean that you're tracing. That's not what I'm trying to say. But if you are accused of tracing and that tracer, alleged tracer, happens to draw in Procreate and they post a speed painting to prove they didn't trace, that speed painting actually isn't really valid because Procreate is what they draw in, where you have that feature, you know? So we have this post as well. Oh my god. Twitter user Wendy or Wendy HBB writes, a few months ago, I found out that the OC she supposedly created is also the result of tracing, not just from photos, but from a really well-known artist too. And she traced the face perfectly. He's at coax_x on Instagram. For over 20 years, the world of fashion has loved Carmen Aureli, but her sights have now shifted onto the hero scene, particularly Japan's up-and-coming newest hero, Deku. Nah, this is wild, bro. Again, look at the veins in the hands. It's cut and pasted again. Can you just, bro, dude, it looks like the skin of the face was also cut and pasted and that she just lined over it. Wendy adds, and I know y'all are okay with tracing photos because like no artist is being hurt, but it isn't just the pose. The clothes, the hairstyle, the colors, the makeup of the chair, shading, even the damn background with the text was traced. Do y'all get that? There's no difference. I mean, she didn't add anything that was genuinely hers to that OC. It's literally a 100% hand traced drawing. I don't know at what point you guys started normalizing tracing over photos or other arts. She isn't a beginner artist at the end. By the way, like tracing photos is always a hotly debated topic, but in my personal opinion, I don't like the idea of tracing photos like to this degree unless you own the photo. You know, unless it's like a picture of yourself, then that's different. It's not your picture. The person is not you. The photographer is not you. You don't own anything about the photo. So if you directly trace it over like that, that's how I personally feel anyways. Right? If you want to like use a photo as a body reference, you loosely sketch out the lines of the pose and then you work on your own from there. You're only using like it for rough blocking. You know, I think that's chill. Directly tracing limb to limb is crazy. So this one is less relevant to the tracing, but because I saw a post about this, I just wanted to cover this as well. But this is posted by Twitter user Crude Love or Rin, writing, so apparently Sony is also a scammer. So this is a DM that looks to have been sent to Rin by Anonymous, so I'm just gonna call them redacted. Or wait, no, actually no, this is a TikTok video or something like that. Posted by Toto Zukus. I'm just gonna call this person redacted because we don't know who sent this. But redacted says, this is gonna be a long story, so buckle up. I first became really good friends with Sony back in 2021 when I won her art contest for her 200K. This was when she had all the My Hero Academia accounts. She deleted those accounts and started fresh, and that's where she got her G Sony 24 handle. We became really good friends. I was added to a mutual group chat and got her number, and we called, FaceTimed, etc. like every week. We sent gifts to each other for holidays, and I even visited her last year. She was a great friend to me, but it all went downhill last year and a half when she got really popular and started vending at cons. I had started to notice that our friendship was very one-sided when it came to our career support. I worked my butt off for such a small following and still wouldn't get likes or comments or even anything regarding my art, while I basically hyped the hell out of her on her broadcast channel and everything. When I addressed it to her, don't have screenshots because the group chat isn't around, she apologized and said she'd do better and never really did. It's something I think people need to know is she apologizes but doesn't really fix her behavior. She didn't give a fuck about my career, and it got worse this year, my breaking point. So in March, she came to Washington for ECCC. I offered to help her because I'm a resident and wanted to see her. I got the hotel, called her to make her get her flights, drove 5 hours and paid for parking. Spent close to probably 2.5k USD on the trip and had to beg her to compensate me for half of it because she kept forgetting. She was unprepared and I had to get materials from Walmart for her, never got paid back for those. And for most of the first day of the con, she complained that her original assistant wasn't there to help her because I wasn't carrying her bags for her or basically being a full-on assistant. She only paid me $700 back, so half for the parking, half for the hotel. The entire con, she only talked about herself, never introduced me to her friends, never put in an initiative to ask what I wanted to do or what I wanted to eat since she was too tired or she didn't care or she wasn't hungry. By the way, her booth was being held up barely and her prints were held up with packing tape. She made me take photos of her signing autographs. She acted like a child the entire time. She constantly talked about her accomplishments, especially the Hori art contest to her fans. This is like an allegation, right? From Anonymous, but crazy you're hyping up winning a contest when you cut and pasted from the guy who hosted the contest or like the guy who was like choosing the winners. Crazy. But Anonymous continues, yeah, it was a mess and I was so exhausted. I asked her to spot me a little for gas because I couldn't afford it. She made over 8k by the way, and she complained and gave me like 20 bucks, which doesn't cover a full tank. After I begged for more, she gave me 50. I have a literal recording of the convo, but I won't post it because it's illegal in Washington. Anyways, she didn't say thank you to me after I drove her to the airport, so I was pissed as hell. I missed work and 2 of my jobs to help her and was treated like an assistant the whole time and not compensated a dime. To top things off, while I was vending, I was talking to some friends and they notified me that she had been actively scamming people because last year she had people put in pre-sale orders on her broadcast channel for sweaters and prints and keychains and whatnot, and everyone paid her, but she didn't send anything out for a year, and some people spent like over $200 on those products, and she now recently gave refunds because somebody called her out. She's awful at accountability. There's been multiple times when people have commissioned her and it takes her months. One person paid her to get a print signed from a voice actor and she never mailed it, and a dude I could effing go on. I have screenshots from her arguments after ECCC, and I have screenshots from my friends calling her out. And then somebody sends messages back, and the anonymous says, dude, I'm a college student and working 2 jobs. She works a full-time job while making thousands of dollars on our conventions every month. She paid for 1 of my meals. 1. So with this one, people in the comment section didn't really have like too much to say, or like they were kind of on the fence about it. They were saying, oh wow, you know, it's like, where's the proof? Convenient. This is only coming up when she's getting called out for her art. Doesn't feel like it's important, whatever. I just felt like covering it because Anonymous did make points about Sony's kind of lack of being able to apologize, like show accountability for things. So it was just something else that I saw that I kind of wanted to toss in here as well. The main focus again is the whole artwork situation, which cutting and pasting off of people's artwork onto your work is insane. And Sony seems to be on an indefinite hiatus according to their Twitter page. That's literally what it just says in their nickname. So it is what it is. People have a sentiment of like, on the original post made by Egos, they were like, oh, well, you DM'd her, so like this is over, etc. Right? My opinion, personally, is Egos did exactly what generally people would say, right? Like people are like, oh, why make a call out post? You should have DM'd them privately first. Egos did. And I feel like the bare minimum expectation that I do agree with is, hey, can you be transparent with your audience? Because you are selling artwork that you've traced, that you've painted over from other people's work, and you've literally cut and pasted people's work onto your artwork, and you're either sold it and you entered a contest with it and won, and you're like hyping that up. It's just the accountability that isn't present. So people are basically harping on Egos, being like, well, you DM'd them and like Sony responded, so it's like a end deal, it's done, right? You should just like, why did you come public with it? It's just the accountability aspect, because Sony didn't publicly let their fans and audience know about this, it's the transparency. So everyone's harping on egos, but I think what egos did was completely correct. I do think it's extremely fair in what they did. And because Sony didn't publicly clear the air with their audience, like, hey, by the way, like the stuff that you were buying from me, yeah, I traced all that. If no one holds them accountable publicly, they're just allowed to continue this behavior on and on and on. So there's that. We have an update. I know I look a little funky. Sony then on April 27th put out their side of the story. I day tripped to the Bay to attend Stay in Bloom, and I literally got home like a couple hours ago, and I've been recording ever since. So if I look greasy, it's because of traveling. Sony writes, "Hello everyone. I know it's been a very hectic week, and I want to apologize for not speaking up sooner regarding everything that has been happening. I know this has likely all been very jarring and stressful for everyone, and I'm so sorry to have left you all in the dark. For now, I want to address everything I've seen and go from there. A thread. I am so sorry it's so long. First, I'd like to properly apologize for my absence this week. I had been on hiatus prior to everything due to a work incident I spoke about 3 weeks ago, and due to a sudden death in the family on Tuesday, ongoing work inspections, and finalizing my move, I haven't had time to gather myself mentally until today. I'm not saying this to garner sympathy in any way also, I just want to genuinely explain the reason for my absence and hope you can all understand why I wasn't and haven't been online. Secondly, I'd like to apologize for the stress that's been caused by me not speaking up sooner. I completely understand for those who are upset about the situation and those who have expressed such frustrations or distaste towards me. I know there has been a lot of confusion and rightful anger, and I'm truly sorry for having been the root of such awful feelings. Even after I explain, I will respect and understand anyone who may still be upset with me after all of this. Regarding the allegations, specifically those that were posted from egos, I would like to provide some clarity on the timeline of events because I did see some speculation about it and want to be as transparent as possible about everything, as well as explain my side of the story. I received a DM from this account regarding the speculation on Easter Sunday morning 420 at 6:24 a.m. my time. I had just finished a short live on TikTok to celebrate Bakugo's birthday roughly around 5 a.m. It was my first moment of rest in a while. So this is the DM. You can see it was April 20th, and this was the response that we saw. Sony writes, "I want to touch base even though I was on hiatus because I wanted folks to know I was doing a little better and wanted to do something short for Bakugo's birthday. I saw the DM shortly after ending the live and sent a response as soon as I could, which was 5:11 a.m. my time. As you have seen in the DMs, they pointed out the artist I had heavily referenced on Pinterest, and I apologized and responded. I spoke with a friend simultaneously to ask for her opinion on everything, and she advised me it would be good to delete the posts I referenced from, then repost them with the references linked and credited, so the original references would get the rightful attention and credit they deserve. I thought this was a good idea too, so I began to take down the posts and search for the original artists of references to both apologize and ask for permission regarding the reference artworks. After this, I had planned to speak with the account that messaged me, but because it was the middle of the night when everything happened, I ended up falling asleep and woke up late Easter morning and observed the holiday, speaking with my family. Again, I had planned to message them back when I got the chance to, with my explanation, time lapses, and an apology for the delay in response, but before I could speak to them again, they posted the thread not even 24 hours later, with no attempt to follow up with me beforehand. I want to iterate that I am not upset, and I understand the concern and respect the intention of wanting to bring attention to what could be tracing. I will say I was a bit thrown off that they tagged the people I followed and followed me as they had nothing to do with any of this. But again, I understand the intention with wanting to post. I will just add reasoning for this, not me condoning or not condoning it, but a lot of people who make callouts will do this because people who trace have a tendency to trace from the people they follow. So they will tag the people being like, hey, this person that we suspect is tracing follows you and they've traced from all these other people that they follow. So you could be a victim, to try to get more eyes on the situation so that for pieces that people aren't sure whether it's traced or not, the artist could step in and be like, oh, that was by piece, That's just why they do it. Morally, is that right or wrong? Debatable. Sony continues, I only wish I was allowed the opportunity to clarify things in private with both egos and the artists who I reference from before making a public statement about the situation. Regardless, I am deeply sorry for the stress this has caused. I will own up and admit that when I struggle with poses, I would look some up on Pinterest and reference them at times. I should have been honest sooner and given credit to the references I used, and I am so sorry for not doing so. Regarding the tracing allegations, I have seen some claims that have really confused me, and I can't figure out how they correlate to my drawings over the years. I recognize that trust has been shaken by the situation, and I don't fault anyone for being worried or suspicious, but I would like to firmly say that I am not a tracer. I've been an artist for some time now and have done numerous lives where people have watched me draw. My art process is no secret and have not made any attempts to hide how I draw, although I understand that this doesn't necessarily prove anything. I have seen that the Todoroki drawing in particular is the one bringing the most concern. I actually drew that piece on TikTok Live with hundreds of people watching me draw it. I did heavily reference the pose, but I have a time-lapse showing my process here below. In any case, I should have given credit where it was due when it came to heavy referencing, and I am sincerely sorry. To address my vending at cons, I have sold some pieces that were using poses referenced from other artists. The artworks in question will be taken down and no longer sold, and I will do my best to contact the affected artist I heavily referenced from to apologize. I know this was a lot to read through, so I want to say thank you to everyone who takes the time to read my explanation of events. I'm also going to have replies off for this thread because I wanted to serve as a source of clarity, instead of potentially fostering more arguments. Again, as I mentioned earlier, I am on hiatus and focusing on family affairs, so please forgive my absence. So this is the time-lapse in question that is posted, and the reason why I'm showing you this time-lapse is because there have been some internet conspiracy theories regarding this time-lapse. So we can kind of take a look at it and kind of how it looks like, etc. And again, not going to play any audio, but we can kind of see, oh wait. Okay, one thing about this time lapse that I'm really confused about personally, and maybe this is me wearing a tinfoil hat, but we do see like a very, kind of like drawn out sketching process. It does take a while. We see everything sketched out, and it kind of feels like from the rendering process, it's like wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. All of a sudden, shadows appear, boom, shadows appear, boom, like shadows appear, boom. Again, some people just render really quickly. But here, right? I mean, I don't know. Color drop tool, that could be a reason why. I will also say, of course, the debate wasn't whether Sony could draw or not. It is very clear Sony can draw. And they do acknowledge it in the statement as well, stating, oh, I've drawn live many, many times, but I do acknowledge it doesn't necessarily prove anything. The secondary debate with tracers isn't typically, can you draw? Because most of the time the answer is yes. It's just, did you trace some of your pieces? Because again, likely they didn't trace all of the pieces, but a substantial amount as we've seen with evidence. So then we have this post quote retweeting the speed painting from Helga Grin writing, okay, am I insane or are these not the same drawings? You can literally see that there are differences in both line art and shading. OG first, the version from the time-lapse is the second. So here we have the OG drawing that was posted to their page, and here we have the time-lapse version. And Helga writes, like, not to be a conspiracy theorist, and I would love for it all to be a misunderstanding, but it kind of looks like OP simply redrew their artwork for the sake of getting a time-lapse. These are not the same drawings, dog. And another person says, I think it's the quality of the time-lapse video. The shading on the arm seems very one-to-one to me. And Helga says it's really not, LOL. And then Helga adds this video kind of like overlaying the artwork one on top of the other, where you can see there does seem to be a rendering difference in terms of the one that was posted and the one in the speed paint. And I think this comparison video does a much better job of actually showing the differences here. Like there are just some wrinkles that are disappearing, etc. Again, maybe it's like the quality of the recording, which is why it just looks lower. And then this person writes, OMG, you are insane. The mouth and hands are different. And Helga says the liner on the hair is very different too. And here, this Twitter user Sec adds a little side-by-side where I think here you can see with a little bit more clarity. Like if you look at the wristlet, this wristlet is higher up than this one. This one kind of dents down a little bit. The palm on this hand goes a smidge lower. And if you look at the buckles strapping this metal piece onto the arm, they're not the same. This one is larger and protrudes more outwards than this second buckle here. And the liner on the fingers are different as well. And Helga wasn't the only person that thought this too. We have this post from Suki or Dynamite writing, am I going crazy or are these two completely different drawings? And they also add an overlay of the full image, one on top of the other. So the one with the G Sony logo in the corner is the one they posted, which was the one that was accused of tracing. The one without the logo and the times are the ones that was from the time lapse. Like the wrinkles aren't in the same position. The rendering on the arm is moving a little bit here. The detailing on the belt buckles are also different as well. Like notably this buckle, right? You see how much darker it gets over here? And a commenter says, it literally looks like the final posted image was rendered more. The speed paint wasn't necessarily the final product. And Suki comments, there's several other drawings, including this one, that were heavily traced. Like there's no denying it anymore, and it's not even just rendering. Come on now. Another Twitter user comments, whenever I finish the drawing, I usually edit my art with a separate software before I post it. This is probably the case. And Suki says, probably, in quotes. It could be possible the time-lapse is legitimate and that is the artwork prior to any modifications, as in like overlays, layers, like color adjustments, adding grain to it, texturizing, whatever. Do you believe it? I would love to hear your comments down below. Me personally, my tinfoil hat conspiracy theory, after seeing the overlays, I'm not necessarily buying it because no matter how much texturization, overlay layers you're adding, whatever, like color adjustments, it's not going to change the line art. It wouldn't change the placement of the wrinkles. And when you overlay things one to one, like the gauntlet gets a little bit thicker, right? The wristlet gets a little bit wider. The rendering on the clothing moves a little bit. The rendering on the belt gets darker, like much more defined, but nothing else really gets darker. So it's not like it was like a multiply layer that was added. This one's very iffy. I would love to hear what you guys think down below. But again, there's just a lot of evidence of the tracing and the copying. Here we have Fantasy Izuku posting another thread about the art tracing, which a lot of these we've already seen. Like, you're gonna say you didn't trace, but the pose lines up 1-to-1. You're gonna say you didn't trace, but it looks like you copy and pasted Hori's artwork onto your artwork. You're gonna say you didn't trace, but your OC looks like this, and the veins in the hands are 1-to-1. And here we have Donna11 writing, yeah, just keep bullshitting about it. And they post this overlay where you can see it's 1-to-1. And Fantasy Izuku adds, if you ever wonder why some areas of her art weirdly drop in quality, this is why. You will also notice her line art is very shaky, which can be a sign of tracing. She does not have an understanding of art fundamentals, so her own rendering looks amateurish. And then BB posted this, writing, there's also this. And it's a quote retweet from a post made by King Mephi, writing, as somebody who loved and supported Sony for years, I'm really sad to see the allegations. And I say that because I have this, a commission I waited over a year for, spent $50 on, and had to ask her for it. And you get this. I'm not saying it's a bad piece of artwork, but anybody with eyeballs can acknowledge this does not look like the art she normally posts. Like, this is the artwork that Sony is posting on their page, and this is what you deliver for a commission? Either you are scamming the hell out of your clients by delivering work that astronomically underperforms compared to your regular artwork, right? That has such a massive difference in quality, or you traced most of your pieces and therefore your actual artistic ability is much lower than you project because you're copying and pasting hair, etc., tracing poses and artwork, and the moment you can't do it because it's a commission, suddenly you end up with pieces that don't have the same quality. And then King Mephi adds, I was really disappointed when I received this commission and I told Sony to redo it because this wasn't in line with the quality of work she put out. I'd waited a year for it and she did it in a few hours of me reminding her. I remember being very lost. She didn't get back to me with an updated version, and honestly, I didn't bother because I just figured she'd been busy and it was $50 that she needed at the time. But now seeing the allegations, I'm worried if it may have been because of tracing. I've been following Sony since Healer Deku days and have always been a huge supporter. I always impress on people how important it is to support others, especially artists. But this kind of behavior is just a bit sad. It's important to credit others. Never downplay how important it is to credit other artists. They take time to learn what you borrow. The least we can do is say, hey, I actually reference from the artist, and not take revenue by selling those artworks. We must learn from the mistakes. Now, a commenter asked for confirmation and / proof that this was Sony, and King provides it. In the DMs, this is DMs with Sony, King says, big dog, you still haven't done my commission from December of last year. Sony says, I thought you refunded. And King says, not that I remember. So Sony was like, oh my God, I swear that's what I haven't done yours. And then Sony says they were going to look back on messages. But King provides the proof. And then Sony's like, wait, what's your name again on PayPal? Am I tripping? What the hell? I swear I didn't not touch yours for no reason. So King provides their name. And then they say, like I said, I don't ever ask for refunds from artists because I love spending money. I'm the anti-Mr. Krabs. I'll wait till the cows come home. I've waited months for commissions. And Sony says, dude, don't even worry about it. It was probably me confusing you for someone else. I don't know. Sorry about the wait though. I can start yours today. And King says, that's really real. The character I gave you, I no longer use. I'm gonna give you the one I'm using now. Do whatever you want with her. I don't know. She's a Star Wars character. She's a Sith. So honestly, as long as she looks like a corrupt baddie, we're good. Sony is apologizing again and they communicate back and forth. And this is the part 2 where King is again talking about it, you know, slim black hilt for both. Want it super simple, referring to the lightsaber. And then Sony says, okay, I'm almost done. And King says, bro, that went crazy, that's fast. And then Sony sends the artwork, which is the one that King posted. And then King says, I have 0 words. And Sony says, wait, do you want me to redo? Is it bad? And King says, I hate to be a dick, but yeah. When he posted the example of those sketches, they were super clean and looked like he took time on them. I'd rather you took your time because like I said, I don't care how long I have to wait. Then Sony says, it's cool, let me do a few sketches and you can kind of pick from there what pose you prefer. And don't worry, you're not being a dick, Shoddy. It took me like 20 minutes to draw this. I'm not sweating. And it's your drawing. Never feel bad telling somebody you don't like it if you paid. 20 minutes? Like, again, I think it depends on what you commission, right? If you commission a sketch, 20-minute sketch, like reasonable, right? If you commission a doodle, 20 minutes. But wow, yeah. And then waiting a year for a 20-minute piece is crazy. King is much more understanding than I am. Then Fantasy responds, goddamn, this is what I was worried about. The fans who trust and commission her thinking they're going to get the same quality work just to get scammed because her actual skill is less than what she has fabricated by tracing and copying. And Bebby says, genuinely feel awful for the people that commissioned her, especially since she never replies to them. She's so unprofessional. And Bebby quote retweets another post post. This is from Twitter user Infectious Arrow or Virus writing, I have this one, I can look for more. These are DMs where over the course from September to December 1st, Virus is kind of messaging Sony and asking about the commission. Happy birthday. Then September 25th, they send something. And October 9th, hope you're staying safe with the hurricane. Good vibes. I'm sorry I can't do more. So maybe they sent money or something. October 16th, hey Sony, it's been a while since I sent you the money for the chibi comms and I've missed 4 weeks of being able to make any income because I had to get a tumor removed. Is there any chance I could request a refund? It looks like I sent 65 over PayPal on June 9th. Then December 1st, they follow up on it. And then in the comments replying to King, Virus had said, yeah, I've gotten a few completed commissions from Sony and several that were never finished. Barely even started actually. A year and a half after I paid the deposit. None of them looked like the art style she posts. I paid $125 deposit for one piece, and to this day, the only thing I've ever seen from it was a bunch of stick figures. I also got other smaller comms that were never even started. Luckily, got refunded for the smaller ones, but I was only refunded for those because I went to her in person. All of my messages, including the ones where I asked for a refund, were ignored and not opened till 7 months later after I saw her at a convention. So, the general sentiment is all the artists basically have relatively concluded online that Sony is guilty as charged with tracing, copying, and it looks like also not delivering on commissions. But a fair chunk of the Sony supporters for the My Hero Academia art, because the My Hero Academia fandom can be not all enjoyers of My Hero Academia, but there are select people that are very gung-ho, absolute blinders to anything except Deku and their favorite characters from My Hero. And they are like, it's just tracing, it's not a big deal, who cares? They're making a mountain out of molehill. I mean, everybody has their own values at the end of the day, and if somebody making fan art of your favorite anime can, I guess, override the morality of stealing and from artists copying and pasting artwork onto their artwork and claiming it's theirs, allegedly faking a speed painting to try to get out of the accusations, and scamming people out of commissions, then I hope the gooning was worth it, dude. I don't know what to say. We have an artist in a fandom who was accused of tracing, but they are actively denying it. So this call out was posted on Twitter by Win the Imp, who writes, hey everyone, this is an official call out for Coffee Leela Uwu for tracing other artists' work and merch for her art. She also traces AI as well, which is why some of her artwork has 6 fingers on one hand. She has recently traced Jili Miao's work of her Verosika fan art. Sorry, I'm butchering it because I am not part of this fandom. We've also found other work she has traced, and in a deleted video she posted, she shows she did in fact trace it. And this is from the media Hell of a Boss. So that is typically the type of content Leela makes.
Hello, people of Twitter. I just wanted to quickly show you something that I, my friends, and other people inside of the fandom have actually noticed about a certain artist here. Their name is Leela, and their user is Coffee Leela Awu. I came across a post a while ago where someone mentioned that it appeared they traced their artwork from previous merch.
Also, completely unrelated, but guys, you know if you're a lifestyle content creator or a content creator in general, if you recognize the background music, because I've used this background music in like a bunch of my vlogs. It's so fun.
And used AI-generated bodies for everything else. When I went to go look at their profile, I actually saw they were inside of a conversation with someone already about this, where they themselves posted a video of them drawing something where they used an AI-generated picture of Mavis from Hotel Transylvania and then copy and pasting a screenshot of Veroska's face from the merch, tracing it, and then rendering it really quickly.
Wait, that's actually wild. No way they pasted a head in there, put the head on the neck, and then traced it! No way!
When I actually went to go warn my friends about this, one of them already had a run-in with them. And this person had actually traced the image my friend asked them to reference. You can see in the screenshots that my friend specifically asked them to.
What? Look at what the friend said. I was thinking this pose, but they sent an art piece in something similar, but of course not copying, right? Because the friend has morals and ethics and recognizes, hey, this is only to be used as inspiration. And Leela says, sure.
Use it as a reference and not trace it and make it different, that was just the general aesthetic they were going for. And then they actually traced it and they tried to ask them to change it, but after them not complying or doing that and them just kind of adding to the piece, my friend just kind of gave up. And then
imagine being told in DMs to not trace, like you are explicitly told that in DMs, and you just say, nah, you just trace.
And just never used the piece because they didn't want to upset the artist. So I think it's kind of crazy that not a lot, I think
This is the 6-finger one. You know, people make the argument, hey, every artist makes mistakes, da da da. Like, every artist makes mistakes, like, straight up, you know? Sometimes you'll have an error, whatever, you miscount. I have a really hard time believing this was a human error where you accidentally did 6 fingers, right? Because these are the front fingers and then the thumb is not visible. When you literally drew it correctly on the other body. You know, like, I could get it if you were working on one piece, you accidentally messed up, whatever. You did it right on this body. So what happened here? Like, that is where I'm like, wait.
It's kind of crazy that not a lot of people are mentioning this.
Head is really small and traced from the merch. Yeah, it definitely looks to be a thing where this artist definitely looks to reference human bodies for the body, which is totally chill, and like the character for the head. But then sometimes if you start tracing too much, it ends up looking something like this, right? Where you reference too much for the human part and too much with the 2D part, and when they come together, it doesn't blend as well because you have a 2D head and a 3D body.
I mean, if you take a look at some of their other artwork, you can kind of see some inconsistencies. In the commission my friend got, the line work was very sloppy, and it didn't really even make sense either. My friend's supposed to be wearing a cape or like a cloak almost, and the person, it looks like they just kind of scribbled it on. The line work's not very pretty. I mean, my friend paid money for this and it's a commission. You think they should get what they paid for. But instead, no, they just kind of slapped it together and traced the artwork. I first recorded this video in March, and since then it's been on my back burner of projects until I was notified by my mutuals that she was once again tracing artwork and using AI. As you can see here, she's no longer just tracing.
This again, see, I guess some people have this as an art style. This also happens again if you're tracing, right? Because that's how you end up with the 2D head and the 3D body, and it really doesn't match up because you're tracing off of one thing and then you're tracing off a 3D body and a 2D head, so it's going to look very disjointed. Also, I do want to note that we once again have 6 fingers on this hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And this hand has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again, right? I get you make human error. Let's say we give you the benefit of doubt and the other 6-fingered piece was genuinely an accident. How did you make another 6-fingered art piece within like a 2-month window? The rendering style is always really, really different. This person obviously has some art knowledge, right? They clearly know how to draw, but for the rendering style, it really looks like they're heavily borrowing from the pieces they're tracing off of for the style they're rendering in.
Canon artwork, but now she's also tracing fan work too. The image on the left was created by the very talented Zizi Hilai Mao. The ad is on screen. If you look at this recent work compared to Leela's recent work posted on April 14th, she's traced the head, face, hair, and horn.
Yeah, would you look at that, guys? Look at the eyes. The top curve of the mouth is really similar. They just didn't draw the bottom parts. Look at the hair shape. Ooh. It literally just traced this and then stuck it on the body.
The only difference is that she closed the mouth and made it slightly smaller. Here's an overlay of these two faces, one from Mao and one from Leela. I began working with a team of people on Facebook and my mutual friends to help locate the other traced artwork and bring credit back to the original artists. Another art we have found that is traced by Leela was made of Stella. We still haven't found the original artist yet, as this image has been reposted too many times to find the original. If you can help us locate the artist, it would be wonderful, and any help would be appreciated. I initially put this on the back burner because I saw she was mostly tracing Canon artwork, and although it's wrong, it's nothing too serious. But now finding out that she's tracing other
Oh, I can't show NSFW. Okay, hold on.
and still continuing to do so without permission or credit to those initial artists, while all claiming that all the artwork she has is original and hers, is needless to say a very shitty thing to do. Not to mention, when people do in fact trust them to get the commissions, what they get is also traced and most times unusable, or doesn't match what they post online. I did catch wind of other allegations as well, but to my knowledge they're not proven, but I will go ahead and read them out. Number one is that they
Alright, to the allegations!
One is that they began posting NSW and drawing it while underage. Again, not proven, it's just something I heard. Number two is that they were generating the AI and then tracing it. We do know that they are tracing AI due to the extra fingers that they draw, and we've also seen them reference it in their own video that they took of themselves drawing, but we don't know if they actually generated it themselves. But please keep in mind, do not harass Leela. If you do not agree with what she does, please help us spread awareness, help us find and credit the original artists, and let them know that their work has been taken. unfollow them, and block them. Harassment of any kind is unwarranted.
So that was the call out video in question made by Win. But Win adds some extra info. They write, another friend of mine commissioned her in January only to receive art that doesn't match the reference. It looks like the head was traced from B, and when they got to the other set of arms, not traced from AI, they had no idea what they were doing. The style of arms don't match the body, the wings don't match the body, the head doesn't even match the body. Then, so here are the DMs, right? Where Leela says, what commission would you like? The friend says sends their OC writing, I'm thinking of one character half body of my OC in some lace underwear, a seductive look on her face. Okay, so it's a little bit hard to tell because this is about a friend's OC, right? Their friend's OC actually has 4 arms, but they look to be in this tiny picture, very human arms. Like the upper arms and the lower arms are the same, right? They're all human arms. Whereas here, Leela says, be ready. They send the artwork. I hope you like it. And then the friend says, what the F is up with her lower arms? Because it's really hard to see in the picture. But again, the OC has 4 arms that look like human arms. They gave her 2 human arms. And then the second set of arms are, I don't even know. One looks like a prong and one looks like a spider leg, which is not what the OC looks like at all. And the ref sheet was sent. And then they say, is that okay? And they just redrew it to both be like 2 spider legs. It literally looks like this arm was like copy and flipped and then just used here. But I digress. They gave him like Mickey Mouse arms, okay? The OC's arms literally just look like 2 sets of human arms. These upper arms, there's just draw a second set of them. Then you get the second arms. It's not like this. Like it's super tiny, but if we squint, here, maybe if I do this, it's easier to see. Like if I zoom all the way in, can you see this? Like it's clearly 2 sets of regular arms. 1 set, 2 sets. This one's blocked. 1 set, the other one's blocked. And then the second set, it doesn't look like this. So either Leela is tracing off a bunch of stuff and maybe use some AI generated images and stuff to draw this, or they just legitimately are really horrendous at following instructions. And Blair Nervarine writes, actually the head is from an AI image too. Came across this on Facebook and immediately recognized the face. And look, the pose is the same too. The arms up, well, like similar, you know, this is like creative interpretation, but the head is the same. Yeah, here we can see more of it. And yeah, so here we got the second set of arms. Also, how do you people have such good memory? Like, oh, I saw this. I remember this from like a photo that I saw a while ago. I admire you for that because I wish. LAP Draws adds this quote retweet, which is the original artist. So here we have Nemoi Akuma. So remember this piece, Coffee or Tea, the face that was traced? Nemoi is the original artist for that piece. That was traced over. Then here, Cat is Tired adds, here is the original art compared to the stolen one. All of these ones are Leela's artwork. So here we have the face, just turn it and flip it, right? And then you get this. This one, no really creative liberties were taken. It was just traced. And this one, resized and traced. And on April 17th, Win adds update, she traced Jili Miao's art again for another art she traced today, April 17th. So here, this is Leela's post, and this is Jili's like legit the same head, just on a human body. And this is their post. A lot of people in the comments were like, I effing knew it. All right, and then we get to the post that Leela made because Leela started making some responses. So Leela writes on April 18th at 8 a.m. in the morning, can't I use references? At no time did I say that I delay drawings. I have always said that I use them as a reference. Every artist can use references however they want. There is no single method of learning. And Win says, there's a difference between using the reference and flat out tracing art that doesn't belong to you. Leela says, I have never said that I traced them. And other people, like Blair, is again trying to correct them, and Leela keeps insisting they never traced. This is somebody in the comments calling them out for literally tracing over head, and they just ignored it. Denial is a river in Egypt, man. Yeah, I never traced, I photobashed. So Leela has another post writing, really, so much scandal. Why do I use references? Sometimes we can all make mistakes when drawing, and that doesn't mean we use AI. We are not all perfect at drawing. This is in reference to, I guess, the 6-finger thing, which, again, humans make mistakes. Sometimes you might accidentally draw 6 fingers on a hand instead of 5, but I don't believe that this is a human error in this case specifically. The point that I'm trying to make is, like, a lot of times, you know, there are general human errors. You accidentally miscount. Things happen all the time. But the reason why I don't, again, believe it's a human error for Leela is you literally have another character doing the exact same pose and you drew the correct number of fingers there. And then you made the same error of 6 fingers in another piece within like a 1.5 month window. So, and here they're just retweeting people that are on their side. So here somebody says, I'm no artist, but I'm going to be honest, this doesn't feel like plagiarism. Is it a crime to reference other works now? And I do think that obviously take what this person says with a grain of salt. Don't send hate to them. If you're not an artist, you're not going to fully understand, and that's fine. But in case somebody needs to tell you, if you take an art piece and then you draw directly over that art piece, you are tracing it, okay? And that is not good. So then Leela made a post writing, I have always used references to draw, never traced. So they post a speed paint here of an art piece that they did, where, you know, we can see they have kind of references in the corner they're kind of looking at. I would also say, look, this is a fair point, but tracers always do this and it doesn't solve the problem, right? Just because you didn't trace this photo doesn't mean you didn't trace for other pieces. And here, Win responds, here's a commission you traced after the person specifically said not to copy it, nearly line for line, and they literally sent the piece that we looked at, which is traced. There are literally speed paints where we can see that she has placed an art piece and drawn over it. So guys, I'm gonna give you like a trigger warning right now because of life ending and self-harm. So trigger warning, but getting into this, I'm gonna click translate. So again, this is using the Twitter's Google Translate feature. So take with it a grain of salt because it's not always fully accurate. But the translate reads, I think I'd better end myself. These days have been really hard for me, health problems and other things. They're accusing me of something I haven't done. I never traced drawings. I've always used them as references. And a bunch of people in the comments are offering support or agreements. And then this person says, hey, there's no need for that. You can still draw. And I'm not going to read that right either, but Vivi Z pop style is not that hard and other fans use hell of a boss character basis. Just apologize and redeem yourself, hun. And they made another post writing, sometimes the drawings I made have 6 fingers because it's hard for me to see. Sometimes I feel very tired. I never said that I've used AI. Never leave me alone and stop talking nonsense. I'm just an artist who wants to learn. And then they posted a photo, and I'm not going to show it, but they posted a photo of their arm with the thing in it. Like, you know, the thing they put into your arm to drain blood out of? It's not an IV. It's like, it's used to draw blood, and there's a cap that you can unscrew from it. That's what it looks like to me, at least, where you can like screw in the thing. They posted a photo of that with a smiley face and a heart. And then we have a response from Win, writing, not to take the situation so lightly, but isn't that strange that every time somebody calls you a scammer with facts, you always post an IV that's not actually in your arm? Suddenly people realize that, hey, this person isn't a good person and we have the facts to prove it. And now it's, oh, pity me, I never did any of that and now I'm in the hospital. Every single time. You keep posting IVs in your arm every time you get in trouble. First off, when blood comes out of an IV in your arm, it's dark red, not neon red, but a purplish dark red. Secondly, there is no needle in that IV. It is not inside your arm at all. April 1st, the beginning of this month, I was in the hospital and I had an IV. There is a bulge where the needle goes in. You can also see where the blood comes from. In your image, there's no blood coming out of your arm. Now, I know you're not just a scammer, but you are an awful human being attempting to manipulate people into feeling sorry for you after you've been caught. Here are your hastily taped IVs compared to several examples and different kinds of IVs. Life-ending baiting isn't a joke. It's not something to be thrown around and to get people to feel sorry for you. It's a real effing issue. But hey, why listen to me? Here, let me ask my mother-in-law, who is a doctor. Or hey, let me look it up from actual medical websites. But yeah, so Win has a screenshot communication between them and their mom. The mom says it looks Photoshop and doesn't look like real blood. And they said Venus blood would be a darker red, almost a purple color. And then in the comment section, if you do want to check, other people were uploading like photos of them at hospitals like with IVs in to show how it really looks like as well. And then Leela writes, really, the photo looks like this because I put a filter on it. And then Win says, I seriously can't believe you would stoop so low as to fake a hospital visit to get people to feel sorry for you. I had my suspicions after seeing 4+ IVs posted to your Twitter, but I gave you the benefit of doubt. But now you're using life ending as a weapon again for people who are reasonably calling you out. And Blair writes, they're going to the extreme to avoid taking responsibility. That is insane. And Win says, it is as simple as, I'm sorry, I will stop. Not, quote, I never did that. Quote, shows mountain of evidence of proof her new stuff is traced. I'm going to end myself. And user writes, this MF is the definition as Sherlock Holmes do solve the crime. Win responds, it's just convenient. I know from firsthand experience that they will give you an IV for any hospital visit unless it's a very specific reason. I mean, why the hell would anybody say, quote, I'm going to end myself because I got caught tracing, end quote, then immediately post an IV? It's attention seeking and incredibly manipulative. Even if they did have an illness, there is no reason they would need to post it unless they wanted sympathy that came with it. And if they did have an illness and sent them to the hospital regularly, why say you're gonna end yourself right after a visit? Why frame it like you're hurting yourself? That's effed up. Oh my god, somebody This person's talking about my YouTube channel. I'm gonna like this comment. I like you. Ty Mia writes, sadly, I'm not surprised. One too many times I've seen it on Cat and Chat's YouTube, where once they're found out for tracing or using AI or both, they try this to say they need to because a family member's in the hospital, and they try to get you to feel guilty and sorry for them. It is very, very true. Look, if you genuinely are experiencing feelings of wanting to end it all, I truly suggest you seek help. Seek the hotlines that are in your country and your area because they do differ depending on where you live. I will have some link down below in this video for Americans. It is also a very common tactic from people who are caught doing bad things that then don't want to be accountable, because it is a classic bait and switch. Because if you are experiencing hot water and you are in trouble, then it's so easy for you to automatically be like, oh, I'm going to hurt myself. And suddenly you flip the narrative, because instead of it being a narrative of accountability and your actions, straight facts, right? Debating, did you do this or did you not do this? Suddenly it becomes a discussion of emotions. Like, I am so sad. Woe is me. My mental health is really bad. So I'm going to do things. And then you elicit a lot of sympathy. It is a manipulative tactic, right? People do this when they're caught. Abusers will also do this with their partners if their partners threaten to leave them. They will suddenly out of the blue develop really bad mental health issues and will threaten to end their life if the partner tries to leave. Could be possible that they genuinely are feeling those, experiencing those. It is also done many times because of trying to manipulate the partner to stay with them. While your mental health is very, very important, and if you are going through mental health issues, I truly implore you to seek help. And it sucks because when people talk about their mental health and stuff, I want to believe you, but at the same time, if it's coincidentally timed right when you happen to be called out, that I am going to give you a very, very serious little grain of salt on there, because why is it always when these people get called out, suddenly this happens? Leela posts a final tweet today in the morning, writing, people on Twitter are really stupid. Now they see everything as AI. Spinning the narrative here. Blair writes, I need to know. How do you explain this? Because this isn't AI. And they once again drop the side-by-side where the pose was literally copied. And Leela is just straight ignoring it. Again, this is a very, very solid manipulation tactic, right? Some people get mad at me for using those words. Manipulators do this, okay? You can't be manipulative while not knowing you are, right? You can exhibit those behaviors and not know you are doing these things. Just now that you know, stop doing it, right? Where again, they, instead of taking your main argument, which is you traced, they instead pick a really, really tiny fault with your argument and instead will try to argue that to try to like take away from the big picture. The 6 fingers, maybe it's a human error. Maybe you traced AI. We'll never know for certain, but until we see them speed paint a piece with 6 fingers on it. But they're clearly harping about it to not have to address the tracing allegation. It's done on purpose. Also, oh my God, my cat. I do want to add that if you be careful scrolling down their page, because there's a lot of NSFW, but they have a lot of like IV photos on their page. And I am not a medical professional, so I can't debate the accuracies of it. But it's a true statement. So anyways, to wrap this all up, this is again not to send hate. Please don't send hate to any parties. Nobody wants Leela to hurt themselves. Nobody wants Leela to stop drawing, right? People were just asking you to stop tracing. The issue is that you traced. We just want you to come out, come clean, say you're sorry. You know, and I feel like if Leela just came forward and was like, hey, I am so sorry. I misinterpreted the meaning of referencing and I thought tracing parts of the body was okay. I've now learned that it's not okay. I will be better. And you stop doing it, people would welcome you back. It's just the doubling down, tripling down, and they are unwilling to even apologize or admit they're wrong. That is where the issue comes in, okay? And that is what people were hoping that you could be better about. So hopefully they can be better. I always believe that people can. And at the end of the day, for most of the time, at the end of the day, this is just a matter of like art, right? It's very minor in the grand scheme of things, but it does affect the artist that gets traced from. So I would hope that they stop this behavior. All right, guys, we have a couple of art scenarios, art situations that's really unfortunate. So this first one is by Twitter user Safari_garden, who goes by Miss Bunny Sprout. I'll just call him Bunny. And they write, just a reminder, please do not commission me as a long-term client if you are unable to wait long. I specifically only open email packages for long-term clients because it takes longer to make than other options I offer. I'm curious about your takes about this, guys. Like, would you be down to wait for longer term pieces? No, etc. Especially with like the rise of scams nowadays, etc. And Buddy made another post writing that they were going to DM their current long-term clients. I mean, for me, it's like 50-50, right? If you paid through PayPal, I would hope the artwork gets completed in 6 months because PayPal's chargeback window is 6 months. But I would state that there is a solution to this, and the solution is incremental payments. As in, if you do have a long-term situation, right? Like, let's say for pieces that take a really long time. So they're speaking about emote packages, right? Let's say somebody commissioned Miss Bunny to make 40 emotes. That's a lot of emotes. If that is your only commission, you can crank that out in a couple weeks, but it might take you a little longer, right? So if you do a breakdown, you're like, hey, I will make 20 emotes for you, and it probably will take me 6 months to make it, and you pay me half the money right now. And then after those 6 months, then I'll do the next 20 and you pay me again. And so that this commission might take a year, but because of this, because of the incremental payments, I will still get money for my work. And you can rest assured that we will not pass the 6-month PayPal chargeback window, so you don't get screwed over, right? So that's kind of the way that I look at it. But unfortunately, because of this, a sad thing happened where Miss Bunny added, because of this whole misunderstanding, I was asked a refund on PayPal. This is so sudden, so I am opening an emergency sale commission. You can get the loading screen for $15. For other common queries, you can message me. Repost appreciated. And it shows they received a chargeback, which is a really unfortunate scenario, and we have seen this happen time and time again. So people in the comments were asking clarifying things, so Moo asks, how long is the wait for comms? And Miss Bunny says, hello, the ones I'm currently accepting are for March and April deliveries. And Bunny adds, I usually don't have funds by the end of the month. It's either all spent, and I don't usually receive any requests when it's the end of the month, which is very understandable. Lesson learned, I will have at least an amount on PayPal for these situations, though I hope it never happens again. And Cena adds, what is this hood lord? I'm so sorry this is happening, Bunny. And Bunny says, wow, thankfully the chargeback issue is fixed. They canceled the complaint. We'll now only have to pay the refund. Which I'm guessing again, because when you charge it back, the person that you charge back will have to pay you the amount and a chargeback fee of like $20. So if they canceled it and then you just like pay them for the refund, you don't pay the extra $20. It's so stupid. Ari Saria adds, followed because you deserve to get all the help you can. Also retweeting. It's absolutely scummy and you have to do this. I'm sure you have posted it in your TOS that it isn't going to be instant unless you pay a rush fee, assuming you have one. I hope you're able to get the help, Bun. And Bunny adds, unfortunately for this option, it was a direct order. There was an available slot for a long-term client, meaning it would be longer, but they misunderstood the long-term as a client who had been commissioning for a long time or loyal clients. Usually my clients did not misunderstand this part, so it was a first for me. Lesson learned for me for upcoming long-term clients. I'll make sure to clarify what long-term means or this will happen again. Cherry, if it's all laid out and discussed beforehand, I get long-term commissions when a sprung on the client gets iffy. Yeah, so this one just sounds like a really unfortunate misunderstanding where the person probably thought, oh, if I'm like a loyal client of Bunny, then I should commission here. In Bunny's case, it was, oh, wait, no, I meant like if you're willing to wait longer. I think maybe it's just a wording thing, right? Where they're not based in the US, so like that could definitely be a situation. Maybe instead of wording as like long-term clients, maybe like flexible timing or something like that. I don't know. What would be the better wording for that? Because I can't see how long-term could be confusing because people might assume it's one or the other. But it just sucks all around. I'm glad that this was a misunderstanding that got cleared up. It's unfortunate that somebody was asking for a refund though, so they're gonna have to get a refund for that. But low-key, I might commission them because their art is hella cute. But yeah, this is so cute. Like, I don't need a starting soon screen, but like low-key, I need another background from my third monitor. So I might just be like, yo, can you make me a wallpaper at some point? Because this is so cute. Sarah, I just calmed them. Yeah, their art is really cute though. It's just a misunderstanding at the end of the day. It is what it is. So our second situation is with Twitter user Angelosh. I hope I'm reading their name right. Their Twitter handle is Angelosh Art. Angel writes, might have gotten scammed because my client hasn't paid me in 2+ months, but I like this commission. I'll finish it for myself. And that is so sad. This artwork is so pretty! Sorry, I know I'm screaming. Look how gorgeous this art piece is. I love their use of color, and I love the way their rendering looks. It's just so beautiful. Oh, I'm so sad to hear that though. Reina adds, oh, that's so frustrating. I'm really sorry you're dealing with that. But honestly, your work deserves appreciation, even if it's just for you. I hope you only get the best clients moving forward. And Angel says, thank you. And Luna says, "Oh no, I'm sorry this happened to you. The art is indeed really pretty." And Angel writes, "I just hope they're okay and hopefully I can get paid one day. Thank you." I'm not sure how to read this username, but they write, "No, you gotta make sure they pay first. It's so good though." And Angel says, "I usually do. I should have done so this time too. Haha." And yeah, like, I feel like the best situation at the end of the day, if you want to be kind, because like what breaks my heart is this always happens when the person is trying to be nice, where they're trying to be nice and they're like, oh, you don't have the funds right now. It's okay. I'm okay to wait. I'll just start working on it right now. And when you get the money together, give it to me, It always happens when you're trying to be nice. That's always the saddest part. I would just always recommend don't start working till you receive money. If the person doesn't have enough money to pay you up front, happens sometimes, commissions are expensive. This economy right now is awful. Just do a partial payment. Like, hey, maybe you could do 50% up front so that you work on 50% of the piece. And then once you receive the other 50%, then you work on the final 50% of the art piece. So that therefore you don't get scammed, but then the person who commissions you also can ensure that, they maybe don't lose out on like X amount of money in one go. The art is beautiful though. Absolutely love their artwork so much. It's so sad to hear this, but yeah, it sucks because you want to be nice, but at the same time, I don't know about you guys, but every time for me, a fair amount of the time, the one time you decide to be nice and you're like, yeah, I'll take a chance, you regret it. Like, there's always that one off where it's like, man, I did you a favor and then you do this. And then this is our final situation. This is posted on Twitter by Twitter user Hollow Ebby, who goes by Hollow, writing, "After talking with the artist that designed my OC, we have learned that my PNG was traced from the reference sheet. I will not be using this PNG and I want to apologize to everyone. I am so crushed to learn this as I don't support tracers." And if we see here, this is the overlay over the two. And that is crazy because that is like 1-to-1. By the way, this is the reference sheet in question, and their model is so pretty. I love the waves in the hair and the waves in the banks here. Like, it's so cute. From what it sounds like Hollow had commission for a PNG tuber, and the person who made the PNG tuber went to the ref sheet and literally 1-to-1 traced it. Because you can see here, right, the ref sheet in question. Yeah, that is directly traced. It's interesting too because the artist hasn't said anything. So here's what some commenters had to say. Junofied writes, "Oh no, I am so sorry this happened. Have you gotten the chance to speak with the artist who traced the reference?" And then Hollow says, "No, I have not." And then Nikki adds, "Is this them? I think they changed the at." And Hollow says, "That is them." And then Gearhorn adds, "So just to make sure, you gave them a reference sheet and they just traced it and colored it?" And Hollow said, "Yes." So yeah, it seems like they originally went by a different name of the name Arius Project and that they have, I guess, now rebranded to this name. This is not to send hate to this artist. I do not want you to send hate and bully people. That's never okay. But it's kind of just a, hey, maybe don't commission them in the time being until they realize that tracing is not okay, which absolutely sucks. It sucks that they've paid money to get a piece of work that is traced off of somebody else's artwork, somebody that it seems like they have a great relationship with. It's just so sad. I think there's definitely grounds to ask for a refund here in this case as well, because I know the artist put in time to make the work, whatever, but Hollow didn't ask you to trace the reference sheet. That's not what was being asked. Like, your job was to make a unique piece, not to trace an art piece that's given to you. I feel like that should be self-explanatory. All right, but we have one final thing. This is an unfortunate case of art theft with stickers from an artist whose artwork is so pretty. I have a whole bunch of her art, a whole bunch. So this is a video posted by Sticky Rice Co. And I'm a little late because it was now posted a month ago, but
my cat stickers are being stolen by other stores on TikTok Shop. And the worst thing is they're pricing them at my $1 cat sticker sale price. So to discourage people from buying from them and to hopefully stop these stores from popping up, I've decided to start my $1 cat sticker sale again. These stores have stolen my listing pictures and listing description, but honestly, I have no clue what they're going to send out because my designs aren't available digitally online. So they might be sending screenshots of my work printed as stickers, or they might not be sending you anything at all when you order from them. I've been submitting copyright forms left and right, and if you see any more of these stores pop up, please let me know. If you buy from TikTok Shop, please do support your original artists and creators on this app. Thank you so much to the person who alerted me about this. I really appreciate it.
that's so sad. So to add more context, okay, which makes it even worse, but Sticky Rice Co. has been doing a $1 sticker sale, and they're very known for their cat stickers. I own a whole bunch of their stuff. I own a whole bunch of their artwork. It's even worse because the reason she's doing a $1 sticker sale is because her apartment flooded.
Seen my recent videos, you know that my apartment flooded, so I'm looking to close my store earlier than I expected for the holidays this year.
Like, that is why she did a $1 sale in the first place. I've never seen an apartment leak that bad. That's not even a leak, bro. That is like their entire freaking water tower opened up above your apartment and leaked into your house. Like, it rained. So when you have the extra context, it makes it so much worse because she was forced to close her shop down because you see that it is literally like the ocean is pouring into her apartment. So she lowered the prices of her stickers to $1 to try to clear out as much inventory as possible so she could, move out, like deal with the apartment situation, all of that stuff for a bunch of bad actors to pull up, try to be her competition, right? By stealing all of her listing images, making it look like her listing and pricing it the same or even lower. And by the way, I don't want to hear like, oh, it's like cheaper, so I'm gonna buy from them. Her stickers are really good quality, like really, really, really good quality. And like as somebody that used to have a sticker business that sold stickers, like if you are buying a sticker of that quality of like what she's getting, like to price it at $1, she's barely making a profit. She's making like cents in profit from that. So I'm just saying, I hard vouch for her store. Her stickers are so cute. If you have cats, you love cats, or like other animals, she has like frog art too and stuff like that. Go check her stuff out. So freaking cute. It's so freaking shitty to see people do that, like bad actor scam, stuff like that. Buy from the original artist, guys. Come on. The designs don't exist online because they are made by her. And the digital file doesn't exist online. I don't think I've ever seen her post just the digital file, if that makes sense. Like she always shows the sticker but holding it. So there's not even a digital file for you to like cut out and like paste because it doesn't exist. She's never posted it from my knowledge. Actually, we do have some more tea. Guys, we have AI generated streamers now. Okay, so this is tweeted out by Zach Bussy writing, "Chat, are we cooked?" This is an AI generated streamer. This is crazy. AI generating streamers is insane work, guys. We're cooked, bro. We're cooked. I don't know how to feel. Like it looks really gross still. But wow. I mean, look at the Secret Lab chair. Wow. But yeah, the Razer Hello Kitty headphones, they even have like a wonky looking Razer logo on the screen. And then, okay, look at the hoodie though. One drawstring and then one random string here. And then look at the hand that's like melting into the keyboard. That's pretty funny. She's even got Funko Pops in the background. And look, even the string light isn't fully attached to mimic a real room. Like, look at all the Funko Pops and stuff. She's got the freaking IKEA shelves in the back too. They're like two separate IKEA shelves at that. Wow. I have one in my old room. She's got the Shure microphone with no wire. Like there's a wire that cuts in here and then it doesn't go anywhere. With a boom arm that is sitting directly on the desk. And then I don't know what this stand is for. She's even got a trash can. Her keyboard does not have arrow keys. It has 3 instead of 4, but that's fine. And then look at this like wonky logo. Yeah, I mean, I'm sitting in a Secret Labs chair, not sponsored. I bought it off my friend. But yeah, like from my understanding, Secret Labs doesn't really do the like bright trim stuff. Yeah, why is there like Secret Labs and Razer in here? Like, I know exactly who sponsored this. She even has fake nails on too. That's crazy. We've stooped to new lows, guys. I literally just saw this. Like I opened my page and I was like, wait, what? But the thing is like AI at the end of the day cannot replicate the appeal a real streamer would bring on. There was a whole bunch of stuff that went down, including some art tracing. So let's cover it now. Again, quick disclaimer, ignore my face. I got 4 procedures done in Korea. Let's move on. So we have this post posted by Twitter user Ela, who goes by the handle XQZCVIJ. I'm just gonna call them Ela. And they posted a piece titled The Conquerors. And I'm so sorry, I've never seen Game of Thrones, so I'm gonna be butchering the hell out of the names. But Aegon, Rhaenys, and Visenya Targaryen, I am so sorry. But it's a fan art of these 3 Game of Thrones characters. And again, before I get into this disclaimer, please don't send hate to any parties involved. That is not the purpose of this video. I originally wasn't going to cover this piece because, again, it happened like a while ago when I was in Asia. But then I kind of felt like this could also be used as like a larger discussion piece. So I wanted to cover it for that purpose. So that's why I'm talking about it. But this is a quote retweet posted by Twitter user Tyvee Art or Tyvee writing, "Just a reminder, this person whitewashed Phoebe and a tracer who stole from many artists." So Phoebe is a black character from Game of Thrones, according to the Google search that I did anyways. So this was a post, another quote retweet made by Tyvee to an art piece by Ela that has now been taken down. And Tyvee writes, "Did you effing trace Phoebe Campbell and make them white? Thinking, oh, the left eye is a little bit higher, no one will notice." And here we kind of have an overlap of the art piece over what looks to be the actor, and the left eye is a little bit higher than the actor's left eye, but everything else is very, very similar, from the nose down to the eye position, down to the eyebrows. This eyebrow is a little bit off as well. And then Ela says, I didn't do it. Honestly, I didn't even notice the similarity. Stop accusing me under every drawing, please. And Tyvee says the face shape, lips, nose, ear, and even the thing between the lips, I guess they refer to the philtrum, and the nose matches perfectly. And you say, I didn't even notice. The audacity. And then Ela says, I said the truth. And N or Garnet Blush says, it's quite obvious though, and you used to trace other pictures before this as well. So on one hand, I can get that it's gonna be frustrating if somebody is in the comment section of all of your posts accusing you of tracing. But if it is true that you did trace and then they're calling you out, then you can't really be mad. But this to me brings up like another ethical point of, is it okay to trace photos, right? Because I feel like most of us know that tracing other people's artwork is a no-no. With the caveat as of if you're doing it for a study in the privacy of your own home and you're not posting it anywhere, nor are you claiming it's your own. Like copying other art is something that painters in the past have done to learn the techniques of master artists. But you don't go around claiming that the water lily painting belongs to you, you know? You don't go claiming the Mona Lisa belongs to you. Now, tracing photographs comes into a different realm where some people think it's okay, some people think it's not okay. I'm curious about your thoughts, guys. I would just say that if you are tracing a photograph for the usage of your art piece, as in this is not a study, right, where you're just doing pose tracing, learning lines, whatever, you are actually tracing it as part of your work. I would argue that I hope you have the rights to the photo you're tracing if you're doing it for work purposes, you know? That is kind of where I stand on it. Would love to hear your thoughts. So, this does fall into kind of like a weird gray area where not everybody would necessarily accuse this of tracing because of it being a photograph of somebody's face that some people don't count. But then we have this other page, Sen Boulevard, or Sen, also calling out this same artist. And this is from October 2024. So Sen writes, the original artists you trace from are Konstantin Sekiris and J1 underscore underscore P. And this is again of another art piece that Ela made that has now been deleted. So here we can see the side by side. The left is Ela's piece, and it looks to be another Game of Thrones fan piece. And as you can see in the overlay, the dragon is actually directly traced off of a 3D render. Now, this again brings another argument where people state, oh, well, tracing 3D models is okay because they are 3D models. And I would say, yeah, it's okay if you have the rights to do it. And if you don't have the rights to do it, then it's not okay. So if the 3D render is something that was made by somebody else where you don't own the commercial rights for it, then in my opinion, you cannot trace it because that's somebody else's work. Here we have another set of side-by-sides where again, we have a family of Game of Thrones characters and a big old dragon in the back. And the dragon is also traced off of another render. And here is the post that Konstantin Sirikis posted, and it got 5.6 thousand likes, and it is a 3D render that they made in celebration of the new season of Game of Thrones. Sen adds, they have been respectfully educated by many artists now, has attacked them and deleted all of their work just to continue with it. We are talking not about tracing for improvement's sake, but heavy one-to-one tracing of whole images without credit and other artists' work without credit. So here we have more side by side. Again, the left is Ela's work. And again, it is like a one-to-one overlap of this dragon art piece on the right. Here is another piece. We have more Game of Thrones characters with two dragons in the back. And what do you know? The dragon is traced off of an art piece that was rotated and mirrored to replicate the two dragons. And then Sen continues, and this is still in October. Since I got blocked, here are some more trace artwork which have gotten deleted. It is a question of transparency and artistic ethics. Here, another character traced off of an image, another character traced off of what looks to be one of the cast members. And here Sen has more examples. So left is Ela's work, and the right is the Renaissance style painting that was traced off of, with basically a direct overlap in the middle. More examples, characters, and you can see the Renaissance painting with Ela's work overlapped, and it's again one-to-one. Another one, this one's actually a very famous painting that has been traced over. Another example. So again, not only is this Ela person tracing off of photos and other people's 3D renders, but they're also tracing off of other artwork as well. Famous paintings, but still other paintings. And then Autumn, this was in October 19th as well, says, oh my god, this is 100% plagiarism, what the F. And Sen says 4 different people have tried to educate them. First very objectively and nicely, but nobody seems to care. And Autumn says, Jesus Christ, shame on them for ignoring that. And then in reply to Sen's quote retweet that Tyvee added under the thread, Tyvee adds, many artists try to talk to her, but she just deletes posts and blocks everyone who speaks against her. Pretty sure there were other artists who pointed out this tracer, but can't find their posts. Maybe later I'll find them. I'm too EP right now. And then Tyvee added, her recent art is tracing of another artist's work too. OMG, who would have thought? And then here you can kind of see like a body sketch that somebody did, and the body is basically very, very close to 1-to-1. And same to the other two characters on the left and right as well. And then under the post that Ela had made with the art piece, Twitter user Andy writes, "Girl, be so for real. At least pose the references you used and learn to not trace and sell it like you did out of skill." And Ela says, "I think the story can be put to rest. I have apologized. I have learned from my mistakes, and I will always repeat that I never whitewashed Phoebe. But at the time, I used the actress Charlotte Hope, and I know I was wrong." The point that I want to make is, one, again, please don't send hate to the artist, but there's always kind of like this discourse when it comes to tracing photographs, poses, etc., because there is a group of people that think it's okay, and there's a group of people that think, hey, maybe let's not do that. And in the Game of Thrones community, there's like another tracing allegation going around. So this was posted by Twitter user Nada Draws, and Nada writes, "Another tracer," and I'm not gonna say their name right, but I think it's Amora Tirte, who is surprised. And basically it is an overlap of Amora's work with photos, right, that have been traced over for the piece. So the body and everything has been traced, the dresses have been traced as well, and some minor elements were changed. Here we have another piece again of two characters almost making out, and again it's traced over a photo. Another art piece, basically 1-to-1 traced over the photograph as well. And then another photo, you know, the harp has been traced, but other elements like the head, etc., have been kept the same. And then Amora writes, "Your need to expose artists is pathological to the point you harass others with your fabricated proof. There are such things called color blocking and pose references. They aren't identical. Also, where is artist etiquette? Didn't even come to me first and block me so I wouldn't see." Amora says, "You are petty and a coward. You are also young, so I should have expected you'd be immature and childish. Perhaps grow up and go focus in school and your hobbies instead of incessantly looking for proof that everyone is cheating in a way that hurts what you consider right or wrong. I'll leave this here. Drew Struzan, if you don't know him, you definitely know his art." And Crowy writes, "A Song of Ice and Fire Twitter will kill you if you use art techniques that have been used for years." And Amora says, "Centuries. The Renaissance greats most likely used lenses and mirrors to project shit for their paintings. Projections of photos are used by professionals to handle time demand, carbon paper, etc., etc. If you're not stealing from artists, fine. If Drew says it's fine, who am I? It's ego." So this is again kind of like a weird middle area, which is why I wanted to talk about this, because I'm just curious about your thoughts. Is tracing over photographs okay? I think we can all agree that tracing over actual people's art is not okay. Whether it be Renaissance paintings or somebody like fan art that somebody made yesterday, you know? I would implore you, if you want to reference it, chill, but please use more than one reference, so therefore you have more examples. Because if you use, and I've said this many times, only one reference, your art will end up looking like exactly like that reference that you're using because you only use one. Again, when it comes to tracing over photographs, tracing, right? I'm not talking like body blocking and then you kind of like change things around later. If you are directly tracing off the photograph for a work that you're going to publish and then claim as your own, I would hope that you own the copyright to what you're tracing. And again, I'm not denying that, you know, replicating paintings has been something that people have done to study techniques. You just don't claim it as your own. But I would love to hear your thoughts down below. I'm gonna stop rambling about this because in previous videos, you guys have said I do like drive in the same point a lot. I'm trying to work on that because I can yap a lot. So anyways, if you have more critiques, by the way, constructive critiques on my videos, let me know down below because that was a very helpful thing that one of you guys said. So I'm taking it to heart. But yeah, please be respectful, guys. Don't send hate to any parties involved. This situation is so messy, guys. This is about VGen and VGen codes and artists who are tracing. Let's look no further and look into the situation. All of this starts with a tweet put out by Celestia, a VTuber on Twitter who goes by the handle Rotliam. And they write, "VTubers commission artists with emergency comms. So many artists on VGen have emergency commissions open and are in need of commissions. Let's support these artists who need help. VGen artists, if you have emergency comms open, tag your VGen below." By the way, I did actually cover this at the end of another video because I originally didn't realize it tied into this situation. So if you feel like you've heard about the situation before, let's pretend you haven't. Okay? So a lot of people were very frustrated going through the comments of this thread because this was done in such good cause by Celestia, and a lot of people were kind of taking advantage of it, posting about emergency commissions that weren't emergencies. You might be like, oh, just because it's not an emergency to you doesn't mean it's an emergency to them. Again, typically most people when they hear emergency commissions, it means this is a very, very desperate scenario where you need money immediately to fix a very dire situation, okay? Like vet bills, keeping the lights on in your house, you need food, whatever. If you want a new laptop, that is not an emergency commission because you will not die without a brand new laptop, okay? But yeah, I don't want any flame towards this VTuber who made this tweet because this is such a kind gesture to put out. It just sucks that some people are bad actors. And one of the bad actors, here you can see the reply was hidden by the original post author, is this. Celestia, a couple days later, put out this tweet writing, "Can we not do this? This post is to support those who are in need, for people with medical bills, surgeries, bills, debts, a device breaking that they need to have. You get the gist. Just say you're selfish and move on. SMH." So this is a conversation between Celestia and another creator who goes by the name of Inara, and they are an artist on VGen. They made a post about the commissions, and Celestia says, "Are these emergency comms?" Inara writes, "Yes, I need 2 more reviews to be verified on VGen." Celestia says, "That's not an emergency. An emergency commission is when somebody has to pay off medical bills, debt, etc. Trying to get verified on VGen is not an emergency." And Inara says, "Okay. Well, my cat has also given birth to 3 kittens. Would you like to help the 3 kittens, please?" That is wild to say. And Takai says, "OMG, the switch up is insane." And Green Apple writes, "So many shameless people. I recall an art group giving the boot to a girl because she would use, quote, super urgent emergency commissions, end quote, almost weekly. The girl just wanted money to go out on the weekends." But that spiraled into a whole other conversation. So a VTuber by the name of Blossom, who goes by the Twitter handle BlossomVT, writes, "This is so shameful. The GFX bots have evolved so much and infiltrated our safe sites like VGen." By the way, if you guys don't know what VGen is or how it works, it is a new site that recently has cropped up within like the last 2 years for art commissions. So it's like Fiverr, but supposedly better. It's a small site, so it's invite only, and artists on VGen are given 5 codes that they can then give out to other artists they know to invite them onto the platform. So it's kind of like a word of mouth. You bring in trusted artists, and that is supposed to weed the bots out. That is the whole point. VGen is supposed to be a more cleaner platform that is geared specifically towards commissions to try to get the best experience possible. Blossom continues, "They have real people behind them with no morals who's actually going out of their way to make up lies that their commissions are for emergencies. But you go to their VGen account and they've stolen art, lol. Report this account if you can." There are lots of these accounts that have adapted to doing VTuber trends, and I can literally see tens of mutuals following them. Do you guys need a guide on how to spot them? Are you blindly following people with 1,000 followers? Please stop feeding these accounts. And here we have communication with Blossom and another person by the name of Wexy, where Wexy says, "I don't see my emotes, but that is not the artist I used." And Blossom sends a screenshot of Inara's page on VGen where you can see it reads emote for Wexy VAs. And Wexy says, "Oh shit, yeah, those are mine." But again, they've said that Inara is not their artist. And here is another page of Inara's VGen where you can see it reads custom live 2D game character design. And here is a VTuber model that is supposedly made by Inara. And then this story spirals even further because another person quote retweeted that. This is, by the way, all a chain of quote retweets. Protagonist quote retweets it, writing, "That is literally my art and custom design just traced. What the hell? Who made that?" So here we can see this is Protagonist's art. Absolutely cute design. I love the little details about the halo with the kind of like interwoven thorns, and I love the wings on the ears as well. Such a cute design. Is that not just the same model? The same wings on the side of the head, the same ears, the same hair as well, with the little pigtail on the side and the length. Look, even the tail and the outfit is the same. Also, it's a little hard to tell, but the colors look the same. It looks like it was like color selected or extremely close to the original color. And Blossom comments, "I'm so sorry it got stolen and potentially sold to someone. Is that logo in the corner yours? I'm in contact with VGen to take it down and send them your post for proof. I'm surprised they can't immediately see that their model art is in different styles and ask me for proof." Protagonist responds, "I found the image and the post was stolen from somebody else who traced over my work and made it into a model. I'm currently waiting for a response from them. I contacted VGen as well, so I hope the thief in the post gets taken down. But the tracer is a whole other thing." And Blossom says, "What? No effing way. Did you find the other owner who got scammed in the comments of my post? Holy crap, I'm glad they're not using it anymore, but that's insane. I am so sorry. I feel like the artist isn't the one who traced your art though, because the style is so different. I hope you get justice." And a user by the name of Zephy Ryan writes, "The audacity. Here goes hoping VGen takes notice." Protagonist says, "I hope so. I'm gonna send a message to VGen. I really don't like how they have a logo made for the client that design was made on for it." And then a user by the name of Lo Luxaris tweets a YouTube link writing, "I also found this. There is even a VTuber in the credits." And this is a VTuber showcase posted by page of the name of Red Leaf Studio. And it says model for Apocalypse, and it is literally the traced over model that we just saw. But this is the showcase of it. And Revel writes, apparently looking at the showcase, this person has been getting art with it and claiming it's their character. So again, this is the Red Leaf Studio YouTube video where you can see the model is Apocalypse, and then the VTuber designer was tagged as somebody else, Akaha48, and the rigger was also tagged as the same person. And then the VTuber Apocalypse, who also goes by Polka, is getting art for that model. And then Revel adds, they're saying this studio also made their reference sheets. I don't really care that the studio is currently under fire for abusing their artists and stealing designs and copying art. So all in all, it's likely they or Polka stole the design since they're the ones who did the traced and stolen model. So again, here is Polka writing, "Woof woof, my name is Polka, an interdimensional puppy angel," and they attach a character sheet. And then Rate Visual Works is the studio, and it's labeled Professional Design Studio and Illustration Studio based in Malang, Indonesia. And a user by the name of Lux writes, "Hi, I'm the ex-employee that's tasked to draw the reference sheet for it, and I absolutely had no idea this design was stolen," which is a very shitty thing to do. And Revel says, "It's okay, you're not in trouble. It's more so the original artist can find the person who might have stolen their design to begin with. As the studio had been involved with multiple commissions and theft, so I wanted to mention it. I'm so glad you're no longer with them." And then Lux responds, "I should be thankful instead because you're sharing awareness on this." And then as posted by Elfie, it looks like Inara's VGen page has now been suspended for violating VGen's TOS. And Protagonist put out a full story about this, writing, "Buyers and artists beware. Akaha48/Red Leaf Studio. I'm pretty tired of this situation and I want VTubers and artists alike to be active and aware of this person, and in general of Fiverr or Etsy storefronts for models and art." And they quote retweeted that other tweet we saw about them where they're posting about the stolen artwork. They added, "Please read the quote for context and how I found out. For some backstory, a client reached out to me in March 2024 for a custom design around 250 Australian dollars. I completed and submitted this design on June 4th, 2024. This is their Fiverr page, fiverr.com/redleaf studio, where they also conveniently deleted the slide featuring the trace piece, which is 400 Australian dollars for full body, or that's what it was listed as. They have a model showcase video on their channel where they claim ownership of the design and rigging. Remember, we just saw that where it says VTuber designer Akaha48, which is not true. And Protagonist also dropped the screenshot as well. And Protagonist adds, "Here is the video proof of my work being traced. There are differences in certain parts, but it's beyond obvious the piece is traced." And as you can see, it is exactly 1-to-1 basically. And you can see here the full body also basically 1-to-1 traced. This is uncanny and without a doubt exactly the same. There's almost no difference. There's no doubt this was traced. Protagonist continues, "I do suspect Akaha and the thief Inara from the quote post are related, as Inara sent me a Photoshop of the model that I do not trust to open. And Akaha's VGen page listed was unavailable way before today, so I feel they're related." These are the DMs between Protagonist and Inara/Akaha. It's labeled as nobody, so it's not fully certain as to who. But the thief writes, "Hi, I don't understand. I just drew this last year, and I drew this for my client, and I have the Photoshop with details. If you want, I can send the Photoshop as proof, and I won't use that artwork again." And Protagonist says, "Stop lying. I know you stole it from the person who traced my work, and now I have to deal with the person who traced my artwork. Just make your own work. Seriously, dude. Like, I got bigger fish to fry. I reported your account to VGen, so I hope you get banned off it. You'd be way more successful if you made your own work. And maybe then you won't be tripping over your own lies." And the thief responds, "Hi, I have the Photoshop file, and I have proof that I made it. If you are kind enough, I will change my VGen art and make my original version." And they linked the Photoshop file. So here they're saying, I will be kind enough as the thief who stole your shit, and I will change my VGen art and make it my original version. So if we like reconstruct this statement, it basically means they're kind of admitting to the fact that they traced it, right? Because if you didn't trace it, then you would argue, "Oh, wait, it is my own original design. You're stretching here." But no, they're like, "Oh, I will make it my original. Haha." All this to say, please do your due diligence to research the artists you buy from, especially on Fiverr and Etsy. If they felt comfortable enough stealing from me, they've probably stolen from others. Even if they have thousands of reviews, check, check, check. And here, Akaha's page is linked, where on their Fiverr, you can see they have 4.9 star average reviews with 2,133 reviews, which is crazy. And Protagonist adds, "P.S. The client was unaware the piece was traced, as they received a sketch and then colored update back to back. They did not ask for my work to be traced, and they are not happy it was." And then Protagonist adds, "And some more. As others have suggested, this is likely a big company that is pushing out alt accounts pretending to be VTubers and artists to scam you while underpaying their own artists. And then we have a post by Twitter user Arafui, hopefully I'm reading that right, writing, apparently somebody already made an art theft warning about them last year. How come they're not gone yet? God. So that one is a little bit tricky because this page called Art Theft Be Gone has been made this entire thread about this artist on Twitter by the name of Art by Fedora, who is a VTuber artist, right? And it's a big list of all the artwork that Fedora has stolen, and it links back to the alleged original source, right? And if we go all the way down here, which was this one, right? Where I think the interpretation was that Fedora stole from Akaha instead of the other way around. So here, this is Akaha's cheapy model, 4.9 stars with only 15 reviews and only level 1 on Fiverr. So, and this was in 2024, this screenshot. So I don't know. Interesting. It could have also meant that Akaha stole this from somebody else, or it could have been Akaha's original work. A little bit hard to tell when you've traced somebody else's artwork and stolen it, because then you lose integrity as an artist. Now I can't really believe you anymore as to whether this is your art or not. I would just say, on a complete separate point though, that call out made by Protagonist was in March 2025. This screenshot seems to have been taken August 29, 2024. So they somehow gained 2,000 something reviews between then and now. So in the window of like 8 months, 2,000 reviews have been left. They are a studio allegedly, but it's just interesting. So yeah, I don't think that doesn't seem to be the call out about that artist specifically, Akaha. And we have another post from a Twitter user by the name of Oxy writing, good thing I changed to my current VTuber mama because I had 2 of my first models made by Akaha48, and I found it weird that they changed art styles so dramatically. That's one of the reasons I stopped using my first model. Now I'm worried I might have used a stolen design in the past. And again, yeah, if you commissioned this person and you had no idea it was stolen, that's not your fault whatsoever. You don't know what you don't know, right? And unless you went to them with a trace design, with a stolen design, being like, yeah, like copy it 1-to-1. Okay, then you're an asshole. But unless you did that, I'm just assuming, right, that you commissioned this artist because you saw they had a whole bunch of reviews on Fiverr and you thought they were a genuine artist. Also, a lot of people do tend to blame people who have commissioned scammers because they're like, you should have known better, da-da-da. Guys, a lot of people who commission artists aren't artists themselves, right? That's why they commission an artist, because they themselves are not one. And if you're not an artist, a lot of times, a lot of the telltale signs that artist might be a scammer and a bot that's stealing people's artwork is not going to be something that will be apparent to you because you just don't know, right? You just don't have that trained eye for art to recognize the style looks extremely different. So you might be like, oh, well, like pretty colorful anime art, haha, cool enough, right? Looks good to me. So I just want us to use some grace when it comes to explaining this, right? Same thing with AI art. Obviously, if you know it's AI art, please don't use it. But a lot of times people will like accidentally buy AI art thinking it's legitimate simply because they just don't know. And if you don't have the trained eye to recognize, you know, because you're not an artist, then you're just not going to know. So I don't want people faulting people who have bought things from this person when they had no idea. They're victims as well to the scam, okay? I'm just saying that because sometimes I hear a narrative online and people blaming the person who bought it. I don't want us to be doing that, guys. They're both deactivated. Akaha has been deactivated. The account doesn't exist. And if you go look for Inara's account, it doesn't exist as well. But all of this brings up a whole conversation of how these scammers get on VGen in the first place, and a bunch of people have been tweeting about it with a theory. So Kuma, or Kumalicious on Twitter, writes, don't host code giveaways for VGen codes. Y'all are supposed to be giving away codes to artists you trust, not Becky123 the scam bot that just happened to win your raffle. Come on now. Y'all hand them out like candy, then wonder why there's scammers on VGen. Like, gee, I wonder why. And another person, Unte, writes, I do a whole background check before giving away those, and I follow artists to monitor. I know some small artists are ones struggling with getting a code if they don't have a friend possibly already in. So I'm very cautious, but I do give them away so more peeps have the chance. And Kuma responds, I think it's good that way. At the least, you're checking to make sure it's an actual artist. And Ray Kuna writes, ... do some people not realize they might also get their Artist Plus revoked if the person they gave the code to turned out to be a scammer? And here it reads, be careful who you invite. Inviting bad actors may result in consequences for your own account. And Kuma responds, which is good in my opinion, because it's important to uphold the integrity of the site that so many people have worked hard to create and maintain. It sucks seeing some people ruin it and invite whomever. And Cookie Hannah writes, for real this, everybody blaming VGen for being the new Fiverr or whatever. I don't know, maybe if y'all would stop giving codes to random people, we wouldn't be getting so many scammers on there. there. Also, they're a small team, like, give them some time to deal with this stuff. And Citra's friend responds, I agree. It's not like VGen doesn't have any rules with giveaway codes. They clearly state that, quote, random giveaways without screening recipients, end quote, is something we shouldn't do, and there are even more rules as to who we aren't allowed to invite. And they attach the screenshot of the VGen Artist Plus code policy, where it lists that be careful who you invite, only share codes with trusted individuals you know, not random. Inviting bad actors obviously may give consequences. It's prohibited to sell codes, trade codes, use codes as payment, random giveaways without screening recipients, and contests must not focus on fan art themes. And you are allowed to give codes to trusted friends, review hashtag VGen code tweets to find trustworthy artists, and hold contests and applications to give codes to screened individual. And again, another screenshot of who is allowed, but who isn't. Yeah, that is a big probably reason why there's a bunch of scammers on VGen, because VGen is invite only, and the purpose of it being invite only is to make it exclusive, which is a little frustrating for new artists trying to get on. But the point is to make sure that everybody on VGen is a verified and vetted artist so that you don't get scammed. That's the whole point. That's why it's invite only. And giving codes away willy-nilly without double checking whether they're a human being or not, or whether they are a legitimate artist or a thief, is how these people sneak on, because they got a code somehow, right, to get onto the platform. So that's one thing to keep in mind. But with that being said, that concludes the situation. Let me know your thoughts down below. Again, please be respectful. Don't send hate to any parties involved. And please show love to protagonists for unfortunately having their design stolen and traced, which is so violating. And to Oxy and anybody else who has accidentally purchased artwork from the scammer without knowing, let's please execute some grace here when we are considering this situation, okay? We have another art tracer, and this one might be a little bit of a debate because a fair amount of the tracing involves the pose, and we know that gets into an interesting debate. I'm curious as to what you think about pose tracing. Some people think it's valid, some people think it's not valid. Regardless, let's look at this whole story, this whole scenario unfold, and then make a conclusion, because some people do be liking to jump to conclusions before they even saw everything. This is all started with a tweet made by this individual called Ray, who goes by the Twitter handle Proximity. And they write, Sir Gaggle has been kindly asked to stop tracing and heavily referencing from my friend's art. I'm not against referencing art, but there was an attempt to handle this private, but Sir Gaggle blocked both of them. So here we have Sir Gaggle's artwork, and this is the pose in question. And we have some examples of referencing here. Where again, some people like to make a statement of like, you don't own a pose, da 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 da. That is a very interesting scenario to take, you know? Like, there's some very common poses, like putting a peace sign by your face. Okay, literally nobody owns that because every single person ever has probably done this at one point, okay? You don't really own that. But then when things start looking a little too similar, and there's a very heavy history of poses looking very similar, then that might make things a little bit more different. And with this is because we do have an admission. Also, no way it says Sir Gaggle, #1 corn fan. That is literally my cat's name. He is not named after the band. I just think it's funny. February 16th, Ray DM'd Sir Gaggle with the photo we just saw, writing, hey, no bad blood, and I'm not going to make a big deal about it since I've noticed you've taken heavy inspiration off of other art elements and designs for some time now, but I just want to let you know I'm not really comfortable with you referencing off of my art, and I've maintained this sentiment for a while now. Hope you understand. It's just uncomfortable to see online without being acknowledged for it. Oh, maybe this is not Ray DMing, but it's a DM to Sir Gaggle regardless. And Sir Gaggle responds, hi, I'm so sorry. I wasn't really thinking when drawing those art and designs. And then they send an overlap of the two poses, and you can see it's very similar. And they write, I appreciate the honesty and I've been actively ignoring other instances, but please be more mindful and careful next time. This was almost 1-to-1. And Sir Gaggle says, okay, thank you. Again, I'm really sorry. So in some cases, it might be a little bit ambiguous. There might be plausible deniability. Here, again, the Sir Gaggle, the person who did it, literally admitted to it. And then Ray adds, I reference poses myself, but it gets to a point where you're just piggybacking off of other people's own originality and uniqueness. Follow, and I'm not going to be able to say the names right, Plivy and Lottie Bell, who seem to be the two people that Sir Gaggle tends to reference from. And then Ray adds, I make original OCs, follow me. And they add cute little art pieces. And then Ray adds, also I want to reiterate, since I'm seeing a lot of people talk about it, that there is no such thing as pose stealing. What he did wrong was tracing, copying OCs, and taking heavy inspiration when asked not to. And then here we have a post from Jessica, who goes by the Twitter handle Dottie Cuffs, writing, oh, I've played these games before, side by side. Hard to see, but this is Sir Gaggle's artwork, and look at the pose. This is Jessica's artwork, just a little similar, you know? And then Jessica adds, not that I actually care for this particular instance, I just think it's funny when you also look at the original tweet. And then they add, okay, since this is getting a crazy amount of attention for some reason, I'm specifying that I don't actually care about this. I didn't ever say Sir Gaggle traced me because it's obviously not traced. I just thought it was funny and relevant. Do not jump me. By the way, like, I don't know why people are like dogging on Jessica for this. The point that I'm trying to make is that this was just a little joke, and there is some similarities between the two. Again, Jessica never stated, oh, I own the pose of somebody with fluffy hair holding on to another character. Just a silly little tweet, looks a little similar. And again, the whole thing, it's all about taking everything in context, guys, and taking everything together in the full picture. And when you see that this artist has a history of over-referencing to blatantly copying people's artwork, that is the issue. And here we have a tweet by Yaoi Flavor, that's their Twitter handle, and their name reads Valentine. Writing, I stopped being mutuals with them after this because it pissed me off. 1, because it took me DMing them to at least credit me for heavy inspo. 2, I keep hearing about them doing this to other artists as well. It's skill diff if you have to like copy to this point, you know? Like if you have to reference this much. So here, this is Sir Gaggle's artwork, writing reach out and touch faith. And it is their character kind of like sticking their butt at the camera with a black heart in the background, and it reads kiss my ass. Look at Valentine's artwork. It is a character wearing the same kind of like bell-bottom jeans, sticking their butt out at the camera with a black heart in the background, and it reads kiss my ass. Like the black heart, the same text, they're both wearing similar style pants, the colorway, their outfit color is the same too, like a really dark colored top and dark gray wash jeans. Yeah, Valentine's art is so pretty. This is such a beautiful, beautiful piece, but come on, like this is the whole, oh, copy my homework but don't make it obvious. Yeah, especially because they were mutuals. That makes it worse because you know they've seen your artwork. Sometimes people like to argue plausible deniability. They're like, I didn't see your artwork. But if y'all are mutuals? So Valentine adds, I too reference poses, as my kiss my ass piece was inspired by a Betty Boop emoji. However, the composition being the same is nuts. I don't know how nobody clocked that. Sorry, I'm done being polite for a second, but give me my follows and likes back, bitch. You can't outdo the doer. But they're right, I draw too. Dude, their art is so pretty. I love their use of shapes in their posing. And then they added, also, I think this is the last thing I'm gonna say. I'm not gatekeeping the pose. I don't care if somebody uses it because it's not mine. But to say this piece wasn't basically a copy and paste of my piece with a heart background and all is just wrong, and I'll die on that hill. I agree with you. You're not crazy. And the problem isn't with him using the pose in the first place. It's having a pattern of going under his mutuals' noses, copying what they do and not wanting to give them credit at all, and even blocking artists so that they don't see. If that's not slimeball behavior, then I don't know. By the way, like, it's always my pet peeve when artists try to call out somebody else in their life, like a mutual or whatever, for nefarious behavior they've done. And then people just like gaslight the shit out of them. I feel like most artists are not trigger happy, right? Being like, you're copying your... There are people like that, but I feel like most artists do not. Most artists get pushed to a breaking point. And then at that breaking point, they're like, okay, fine, I'm fed up with this behavior. I'm gonna make a call out because I'm tired, okay? Like, the artist must have felt enough reason over an extended period of time of behavior from that individual to go out and make a call out post. Again, of course, there's toxic people, right, who will constantly be calling people out for no reason, but most artists don't do that most of the time. So let's give some benefit of the doubt. It rubs you like so much. It kind of like sandpapers your soul down a little bit, you know? And then finally, after the final straw where you're like, the black heart too, you know? Like at that point, then it's like, I'm gonna call them out because I'm tired. Valentine, I am on your side. Who is gaslighting you? Because the black heart is the same, like the kiss my ass, right? That I know it's inspired by the Betty Boop, but the black heart, that was extra added by you. The outfit is the same too. Like, come on, they're wearing very similar bell bottom gray wash jeans with the same black heels. Look at the black heels. Look at the same. They're both wearing a dark colored top too. And you might be like, well, their character also had like a grayscale aesthetic. They couldn't make the shirt a light gray. It had to be also dark gray too. Like, this is too much. Even like the shading of the pants is similar too. And you might be like, well, that's just how you shade pants. But like the direction of where the lighting is coming from looks the same too. Like, I just personally get a little heated because a lot of times people will try to gaslight artists to be like, oh, you're overthinking it, or like you're too much in your head, da 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 da. Again, the behavior must have happened to the point where it made the artist uncomfortable enough to finally want to call it out. So then Sir Gaggle had put out a statement, and this statement was March 10th, 4 a.m. in the morning. I slept at like 6 a.m. this morning. But that was before Valentine's post. and they privated their account after Valentine's post, which came out like 8 hours later. But they write, "Hi guys, I'd like to make a thread about what's been said about me. I want to say I'm very sorry for not making this earlier, as I was with my family who has come from another country, but I will not shy away from this and act as if it's not happening. First of all, I want to talk about the copying other people's OCs thing. With my OC Marina, she had been heavily copied off of one of Plivy's characters, which I redesigned nearly straight away and apologized for it in DMs. We see that here. Then they add, another thing is my OC Aryan. I'm not sure how to say that name. Sorry. I'm really bad at pronouncing names. It's said to be a copy off another creator's OC, which is not true. Aryan is an OC I've had since 2013, and he had spiky hair then. I had given him a buzz cut, but I decided on changing it back. Now onto the tracing part. All the screenshots that have been taken of DMs I have apologized for, and I know that was wrong. With my newest drawing, it shows being heavily inspired by one of the drawings from Lottie Bell, and the start sketch being traced. I know that is true, and I'm not saying it isn't. But the rest of the drawing isn't, as I used that sketch as a reference to fix up. So here you can see the side by side, right? Where they literally were like tracing a pose off of the art piece and then their own version. Their fixed up version. Then they write, I have done the same thing with real life poses, but I now realize the difference between the two and will stick to real life poses and just stop using other art as references. Another thing is I did not make Juliana a trans man for clout. I did it so he can be more like me and kind of remind me you don't have to look a certain way to be accepted, as I don't look like a guy at all. This is on Sir Gaggle's alt, where they write, first time I drew her and today. And somebody comments, I also find it kind of crazy. They used to she, her, their now trans man OC until they found out making him trans would get him more attention. Sir Gaggle continues, I decided I'm taking a break and will not be posting on Twitter for a while, due to more reasons than just this. I'd like to apologize to the people who I've hurt, and I am very sorry for everything I've done. I've also decided on privating my side account, which is the Sir Gaggle the third account. A lot of people, when it comes to like pose copying, they're like, oh, you're like overthinking or nobody can copy a pose, da 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 da. I mean, this is actually one of the cases where the artist actually admitted to it, where they literally apologized for it. At least thankfully the artist owned up to their behavior. They admitted what they did, so I give them more credit, right? Because some people just straight up lie, and when they're caught they lie some more. So I truly appreciate that. Thankfully it's up to the artists that were affected to accept the apology. But finally, one of the people affected, Plivy, writes, online literacy is at an all-time low, but an artist's autonomy to their own work is even lower. Twitter is the only place you could get hate for voicing being uncomfortable with another larger artist tracing and stealing from your art. Anyways, don't be weird and give hate. Doesn't really need to be a war or some grand debate. That's all. Now let's get back to drawing. Okay. So yeah, I want to wrap this up. Please send love to the artists affected, Lottie, Plivy, for, again, Sir Gaggle literally admitted to tracing off of them, and Valentine as well, and everybody else affected. This was also crazy to me because I don't know why so many people are against the artist, like the artist that had been traced from, right? So many people are like gaslighting the artist, being like, you're so full of shit, it's just a pose, it's not that big of a deal, when the artist literally admitted to tracing and referencing off of their artwork. This is one of the few times we actually have a blatant smoking gun where they admitted it. And people are like, yeah, no, you're crazy. Or it's not that big. It's not that big of a deal. It was the Betty Boop pose. Do you have eyes? Because I have eyes and I know what I saw. And that's very, very, very uncomfortably similar. Guys, please send love to all of the artists affected. I feel like I rarely see a case where people get their stuff traced and the people are somehow weirdly against them on the internet, but that's just Twitter for you. Reading comprehension is at an all-time low, guys. And Twitter is just being Twitter, which absolutely sucks. I don't think the artists deserve this whatsoever. The artists unfortunately had all their stuff traced, and then on top of that, people aren't even believing them. Like, that is wild to me. And then I would show like any statements if Lottie has made any, but Lottie has privated their account. Likely probably because a lot of people were being really mean.